Hello and welcome to the Comic-spiracy, episode 375 for the week of November 13th, 2018. We're back. Missed last week, thank God. We're back to record another podcast, though. My name's Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager.
Scott.
Kevin, also representing Toby.
Okay.
And Charlie.
And very special guest, back again, finally, because we needed him here. You needed him. You want him. You want him all night long. He's standing right here. Bryce Larsen, ladies and gentlemen. Holy shit! I did not do that on purpose.
You literally materialized him.
He actually was not here and then showed up
and he
right
has
at the
luggage.
We have been sitting here waiting to record for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, just come on in.
We have been sitting here waiting to record for an hour and 20 minutes.
I just flew in. My arms are tired.
Hello.
Did that pick up? Probably not. Okay, these are my work friends.
Oh, you don't know. You guys don't know what you're in for.
Sorry, you guys have to be exposed to this.
We're excited. I've been trying to prep them. This is Amanda. She's been asking this whole time if there's a video camera. And
No.
It's a podcast. And then 10 minutes later, she'll say, but is there a green screen? No,
this is really low budget.
Yeah.
But you guys, she knows that sometimes there is cameras.
Is this being recorded?
This is all being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah. Bryce, I literally was like, well, and I introduced you, and you
yourself.
walked
Say
up to
hi
the door.
Well, I'm so happy to be here.
He was trying to troll our listeners, and you wouldn't let him.
I was.
Well, I would never let Higgins get away with any trolling. It's against my nature.
I was just going to bullshit for 45 minutes till you showed up, and but you made it. You're here.
Of course, I wouldn't have missed it. I heard the terrible news yesterday, and I booked a flight.
Terrible.
Just
I think
like
it's like
that.
the greatest news of all time. Dude, the Detective Pikachu trailer is fucking amazing. You seriously...
It's really good, actually.
It is the best thing.
Oh, and then somebody chopped in Danny DeVito's voice for Pikachu, and
I've
I
already
just
talked to
lost
Brock.
it.
I'm taking his kid to the movie.
Yeah,
Like, there's
apparently.
not a joke. Why
Why aren't you taking my kid?
Bring him down. I'll bring
First of all,
everyone's
second
kid
of all,
to go
what
see
are you even talking about? What is
Detective Pikachu.
What is that?
It's the greatest movie of all time. You not seen this?
Do you know who
Is it already
Pikachu
out?
is?
Yeah.
The trailer
I know
just
who-
came out, and he
I'm the
doesn't watch
Pikachu
trailers.
master.
Oh, yeah, you don't watch trailers. That's right.
I do not watch
You don't watch trailers. Okay.
This is Nadia. Charlie's wife. She's triggered.
Okay, Bryce is going to be doing live intros during the podcast. Yeah, that's while he wanders the store. He's taking the Toby role today as the store
he's
wanderer.
right now, for those who are wishing you could see this, he is touring his guests around the store, showing them literally the comic racks, statue case.
We got comics. We got graphic novels.
Really, the worst podcast of all time. So anyway, Bryce is here. We'll get back to Bryce in a second here. No, really, that Detective Pikachu trailer though, like I just want to talk about that all. Like, I had no Geekbox last night. I want to talk about that trailer. That trailer's amazing.
It's a great trailer.
It's so good. There's
It
Pokemon
is.
comics. This counts. No, I thought it was going to be bad. I am legitimately excited for this trailer. It was so good. Goodbye. Where's Bryce?
He went to the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
He's gone.
Anyway, Detective
Remember,
Pikachu.
he gets here. And
So
then
their,
he does
so their
bathroom
tour
routine.
was literally the statue case and the Marvel
The Marvel
comics.
section. And they're like,
Literally the Marvel
they're like-
comics, and that's where he stopped.
we
And then
have
it was
to get
just
out of
like,
here.
now you have to flee. You have to flee very, very
Like,
quickly.
they're like, we really need to
This
get out of
grown
here.
man is talking about stealing a child. To
Yeah,
watch
these
Detective
people are
Pikachu.
terrible. We have
Yeah,
to
I've
get out of
seen
here.
that. I was like,
But no, I already told Brock. I already said I'm going to steal your kid to go see, because Brock's a terrible father and doesn't want to take his kid to go see the
I
Detective
didn't say
Pikachu
I didn't
movie.
want to.
So I was like, I will sacrifice
Ryan just
my night.
said, I'm taking your kid. I was like, all right.
I'm just amazed that Ryan is volunteering to do anything with children.
Well, it's
I know.
very.
a little less creepy.
Yes, Charlie, those kids are a beard.
Yes,
for him.
yes. But no, we'll give Bryce a minute to get back up here. Well, obviously, this podcast is very different than what it was originally intended to be. We had a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. Clearly, terrible news on Monday. Not unexpected news, but terrible news. Stanley Lieber, full name, passed away at the age of 95, just shy of 96. Stanley Martin Lieber, actually, full name. December 28th, 1922. Passed away November 12th, 2018. Bryce, we're just going to go right into this, so grab a seat and
I am so excited to be here. I cannot tell you guys.
Bryce, we're talking about the death of Stanley.
We decided. We have to. This is the intent of the podcast changed dramatically yesterday.
It did indeed,
and obviously, this is something we have to talk about here for quite a while. So we'll go back to the fun, goofy, stupid stuff in a minute. But my reaction when this happened, and I got a text immediately from my buddy Seth, who was like, "Dude," he texted me Stanley. That's all he texted me, and I replied no, and he replied yes. Like that was the conversation. But that's all. I mean, I'm not sad. I'm not surprised. I mean, this was gonna happen. I mean, my grandmother passed away a couple weeks ago, and she was 92, and it was obviously I was shocked when I got the call, but I was not surprised. Yeah. There is just when you get to this point, the call is going to come sooner than later, right?
Right. For the past decade, every day or week has been just bonus.
Yeah. Anytime Stanley has been trending, that's sort of the first thought.
Yeah.
Mind you, that was always my first thought, and it always made me cringe. And then there was that sense of relief when it was something else entirely.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what he's gone through, and we've covered some of this on the podcast over the last couple of years since his wife passed away, clearly some terrible people were taking advantage of him and just trying to get every penny they could out of him before he passed away. So it's sad that his life ended sort of with this kind of stuff hanging over him, but at least as far as I know, a lot of that was cleared up before he passed away.
That's what it made it seem, yeah.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, they have not talked publicly about what happened.
Cause of death.
He was in a hospital as far as we know. We don't know how long he was there. Again, as of this recording, the information is minimal, but yeah, Monday morning on November 12th, when all this came out, again, near infinite amount of outpouring of support from fans of the community online. I'm sure Marvel will have something planned in a few months. It takes a little while to do these memorial tribute books or whatever, but I'm sure give it a week or two, there will be massive tributes in all the Marvel comics. You can usually get that stuff in the books pretty quick if it's for when people pass away. So I'm sure Marvel will do something
and
huge.
DC books. I could see DC giving some.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he worked for DC, right? At one point, he did a number of books for him. So.
No, that did not happen.
I mean, every comic company tweeted something. Mm-hmm. It sent out a message.
I wouldn't be surprised if you could see a lot of creators putting specific stuff in their books and such to talk about.
Yeah. Bill Sienkiewicz, incredible artist, has been doing amazing just work of his career, work of most people's careers, mostly kind of bust or headshots of celebrities and actors, a lot of actors and musicians, but of celebrities and famous people when they pass away. And he's like, this is the hardest one I've had to do is the Stanley one. He's working on it right now, and they are in fucking incredible. Bill Sienkiewicz doing the work of his career at 40 years after he started at Marvel, 30 some odd years after he started at Marvel. You got to meet him, Charlie. You guys met him at the Silicon Valley.
So we went through and did the photo with him. I mean, I have had various encounters with him at various cons, either in the audience or in passing a number of times. But taking my kids through to get the picture with him and stuff was
and literally your last chance.
And that's exactly why I'm like, okay, I have to do it this time because this is. My feeling was, based on everything we had seen with videos and reports, that if I didn't do it now, I couldn't even say for sure I'd have another chance, and obviously I wouldn't have.
Yeah. I got to meet him once. I met him briefly, but I got to hang out around him for a number of hours. He was doing a signing at a store in the area, and I went down to get Scott's book signed for him because Scott last minute had to cancel. He couldn't make it.
Wow.
So I took Scott's
what a good friend.
Amazing Fantasy 15 and Amazing Spider-Man #1 down to get signed by Stan Lee. I feel like I told the story fairly recently too.
Pulled him out of the Cordovan?
Yeah. Well, they said 15. They said 12 cents on the cover, so double cover price, right?
Cheap.
Double shipping Marvel.
So, I mean, I'm longtime friends with the store owners and managers and stuff. So I was like, literally, like, this isn't me just bullshitting. Like, do you guys need help? Like, there was a billion people there. I was like, do you want me to like watch your back door, literally hang out and just kind of eye the crowd and stuff? So me and my buddy Seth, we just kind of hung out all day. It was great, and we got to kind of sit around him during his breaks and just kind of hear him talk. And I mean, it's. And then when it was the signing, we got our stuff signed. When the signing was over, he was pretty quick to get out, right? I mean, wasn't hanging around. But it was, he was super nice. And this is what, 10 years ago? 8 years ago, maybe?
9.
Yeah, it was a while back.
When I first started working back at the shop.
Yeah, so even that, he was still in his, mid 80s.
You talking about the store down the street?
Yeah.
I had a ticket to that. And
really?
The first time when they canceled.
Yeah. Oh.
And then
it never came back.
And then never came back.
Yeah.
But I did see him at the same con that Charlie was at. I got a picture with him and my little man.
You did?
It's awesome.
Did I not see this?
I can...
Because I thought Kevin would have been the only other one that may have met him.
I met him a few times.
He loved my anti-DC jokes.
It's funny to say it now, but we kind of took Stan for granted.
Yeah.
In the 90s, he was so accessible.
Yeah.
Like, I got multiple Stan books signed and just got to, like you were saying, hang out near him for, like, long periods of time. And it's just like, Stan's
He's just there.
He's just there.
He'll always be there.
He'll always be there.
Yeah.
Now, so Omar posted recently. So if you guys are old listeners, you remember Omar. Did you see his story online?
No.
So,
Was it in the...
Omar, forgive me for telling you this. He was on Comics in Decline.
Okay.
I guess Omar used to submit his art to Marvel incessantly.
Okay.
Just nonstop. And eventually Jim Shooter sent a letter back that said,
I've never heard this before.
That said,
Thanks,
keep up the good work. And so when Omar met Stan, he asked him how come he didn't sign his letter. and according to the story, Stan tells Omar, son, I just didn't want to dash your dreams.
Get the fuck out, bro.
Well, by that point, he wouldn't have even been a Marvel anymore.
I thought
right?
I thought that was an amazing story. So, Omar, sorry if I butchered the story, or if you're even listening anymore.
That's a great story.
Sorry, let's go back. Kevin, you had met him just at cons and
throughout
stuff.
the 90s.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and this is going to maybe sound like an obvious statement, but for everybody sitting at this table, and probably everybody who's listening to this, none of us have ever known a world without Stan Lee in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, Stan was Marvel for all of our lifetimes.
Yeah, for everyone here.
So that's why this is such. I don't want to just pick the name of a newer creator. Somebody I don't want to name a name, but let's say somebody passed away.
Yeah.
You'd say like, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Jim Lee.
But they haven't been. They weren't like a comics Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And so it's like Stan. I feel like I've known Stan my whole life because you have Stan the writer, Stan the editor, Stan the comics ambassador, Stan the face of Marvel, Stan narrating cartoons, Stan on the convention circuit. He's just like a part of
Stan the shill that just wants to make money.
Well,
he's just a part of the
cameo
world.
guy.
Yeah, the movie cameos, everything.
I can't really. There isn't a world in it that, from a very young age, that I wasn't aware of Stan Lee as a sort of creator at Marvel. And for the most part, I didn't really get to know creators of comic books till I had been reading comics a long time. Like I've talked about, when I'd go back through some of my long boxes and be like, holy crap, so-and-so wrote this? I had no idea at the time. Stan Lee, though, because of the way he made himself accessible from sort of day one, between reaching out in the comics, doing the narration in various cartoons, like, he was sort of the face of comics in general, not even just Marvel in a way, like, of comics.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about, because I remember the kind of... Oh, well, sorry, to really quickly finish off, Scott, you never met Stan Lee, right? You're not a convention guy. You've never been a convention guy.
I've been to 2 conventions.
Yeah.
San Francisco once and Silicon Valley once.
Like the really recent conventions.
San Francisco, maybe when S.H.I.E.L.D. first came out.
Okay.
So before it moved to Anaheim.
Oh, okay.
WonderCon?
Yeah. No, it's been a WonderCon longer than that.
Okay, well,
or it's been in Anaheim. WonderCon's been in Anaheim longer than that.
Look, whatever.
Scott's been to 2 cons.
Yes,
I've been to 2 to 3.
Okay.
2
I
cons
just
and they didn't like them,
no.
apparently.
It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Not my jam, baby.
A lot of old comics there. And Bryce, when did you get that picture? Was it?
I mean, was it not the same Silicon Valley Comic Con?
Was it this year or was it when he was there? Because he's been to Silicon Valley twice.
Yeah.
There was the year they launched Silicon Valley, and then this past year.
It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah. So, it was
So
the
that
first
was
one.
when they first launched it.
Yeah.
There you go. Then
I don't know that I ever saw this picture.
JT was little. You were holding him in the picture.
he was on my neck
Yeah,
or on my
okay.
shoulders
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, and I think that he was.
Maybe I
Yeah, I think we've seen this one.
did.
And I didn't actually have any digs at DC, although I've regretted it ever since. Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, he was awesome. I told some dad joke, and he chuckled, and I'm sure that he, I'm sorry, I'm not sure that he even heard me, but he was a very gracious host, despite me paying lots of money to just get a picture with him. But no, he was really cool. We stood in line forever, but he was awesome. But I mean, dude, you said we've seen this coming for so long, and I stand by what I said earlier. Every year that we've had with him has just been a bonus for so many years now.
Yeah.
That as you mentioned, you were expecting the call at any point, and so we're really lucky to have had him for longer than a lot of people. A lot of people don't get as long.
Now, Kevin may have a little better memory of this. You would have been a little more active in comics. When I was first kind of getting into comics, early 90s, and especially mid-90s, when Jack Kirby passed away, I do remember there being a lot of Stan Lee hate. That was when I feel like the Stan Lee hate was full bore, right?
Yes, because the Image guys suddenly became the champions of Kirby.
Yeah.
And then it was, Kirby got jobbed, Kirby got robbed, Stan took all the credit.
Yeah. And I feel like something happened. Maybe it was when the movies came out. Something happened. And I feel like a lot of that, I don't know if it went away, but I feel like a lot of that talk just got overshadowed by, really, it must have been when the movies came out is when Stan Lee became this other level being, right? I mean, even in the 90s, he was still just Stan Lee.
Well,
That changed when Marvel really, because he's been chasing Hollywood since the late 70s. Well, hell, he's been chasing Hollywood since the 60s, but he's really been chasing it since the late 70s, early 80s. And I mean, obviously, in the Marvel cinematic stuff and the Spider-Man and X-Men movies, that's way outside his control. He was long gone from Marvel at that point. He left Marvel Comics in the late 70s. He left Marvel entirely by mid-90s, late 90s, right? Even though he's like what's the phrase? What's his title?
Ambassador?
Nah, there's they had let me see if I can look it up. He has like a title that Marvel gave him. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking.
No, it's like chairman.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. It's Latin. Let me see if I can find
The second word starts with an E. I just can't.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
Excelsior?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Kind of this permanent figurehead. Even if he's not with the company on a technical basis.
Yeah, but the trash talking you're talking about is like Stan is the glory hog.
Right. And I feel like a lot of that has disappeared with the movies becoming so much bigger. And it's tough to say that with Stan Lee when all of these guys are listed on all these movies, right? Yeah. And I think Stan has fought that for the last 20 years, coming out and being like, Kirby and Ditko and all these guys were so much more important than I was to these stories.
Well, part of the go ahead, Charlie.
The way I kind of look at this is Stan became the figurehead for a movement of people not getting the proper recognition for the creation of their characters. And it's not necessarily even just as a writer. It's just Stan was the only one who managed to link his name to his creations in a very real, effective manner. So he became the figurehead of why is it one way for Stan Lee and not the same way for all these other creators?
Were they going to have Steve Ditko on the news? Was Jack Kirby going to go on do a radio show? No,
but you know how those Image guys. I mean, how old were they? They were in their 20s.
Well, but
right, exactly. If that, and you know how obnoxious and belligerent those.
This goes back to Comic Buyer's Guide.
When you look at there was a point in the industry where people are kind of going like, okay, how is so-and-so just scraping by when they did all this and created all these characters? Like, you hear all these stories of creators.
This was Neil Adams of Siegel and Schuster back in the 70s, right? I mean, that was sort of the first big push for creator rights.
And I kind of feel like Stan Lee, because of his position and that kind of stuff, became kind of like the figurehead of, in a weird way, everybody at that point knew who Stan Lee was.
Yeah.
Because he managed to not just be the creator of Spider-Man, he managed to sort of insert himself into everything that was going on with the character.
Well, when you're the co-creator, when you're the publisher, when you're the writer, when you're the spokesman, when you're the PR guy, he was doing every job. That's why people knew him. Like, I don't think he was like, fuck Kirby, he sucked. I'm the real king. Like, that was he's never. And so I never understood that hate. I mean, this goes back earlier than the 90s. Yeah. So this goes back to a lot of the more art-focused guys.
Well, I don't want to use the word problem. Part of the problem is the Marvel method of scripting comics hadn't been used before, literally Stan with plot, pencils, script.
Right.
So I think everybody should be able to agree, Stan and Jack, Stan and Steve, Stan and John Romita, Stan and Don Heck, George, Paul, John and Ringo, whatever. You put these guys together and there's a special alchemy that happens. And maybe you can't pull the strands apart and point to, here's what everybody specifically contributed.
Yeah.
You just know that the sum is greater than the people who get together.
Maybe short of Kirby, look at those guys on their own, and even look at Stan Lee on his own. Without them, it's not none of it worked, right? I mean, their stuff never really clicked. Stan can try to go over to DC later in his career. He's done various stories through the years, but there's never that same spark as there was back in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. They're interesting, but I mean, there's never that spark's not there.
That wasn't. The way I look at it is there's various things Stan Lee has done, not because there was necessarily a story he wanted to tell there, but because they realized just having his name on a book like that would sell a certain amount of copies. And that's fine. But when you had... This is something that I kind of always feel, and I've had so many conversations with people in the shop over the years about how accessible are the older books to read, and Stan Lee's one of those creators of the older books where I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Read the Stan Lee older content. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's, as you said, there's a magic sauce to that old school sort of Stan Lee books when he had the right creative teams and that kind of stuff working with him, where he set the blueprint. And it was kind of amazing just the amount of content that people reference in the books that were just like a single issue thing that happened a long time ago that nobody ever forgot.
Yeah. You know, I think when you look back at comics, just the whole history of comics, the industry wouldn't have existed. It wouldn't have continued without Siegel and Schuster and Bill Finger or Bob Kane. It would have 100% died if it was not for Stan Lee. I mean, I think pound for pound, he is the most important person in the entire history of comic books. He was there from near the beginning of the American comic market, and he worked through the entirety for 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then single-handedly responsible for, again, I would say second or maybe third only to Disney, and now part of it, of creating some of the most memorable fictional characters of the 20th century.
And I think what Charlie touched on with the reading the old stuff, look, if you gave a choice between pull a random Marvel Silver Age comic and a random DC Silver Age comic.
Oh, yeah.
The Marvel is going to probably, I would say with 95% certainty, be a better read.
Yeah.
Because the DC comics were written for children.
Yeah, they're very
and
different.
The Marvels were written for all ages. Mm-hmm. And by that I mean literally all ages.
Yeah.
And plus Stan had that thing with the soapbox and the narration captions where you know him as a reader, which you didn't. DC was like a monolithic editorial system. And, well, Julie Schwartz is not doing like little winky captions in the comics.
But do you want Julie Schwartz going on TV and talking to people, right? I mean, Stan was the only guy in comics that people knew. All of, like Charlie said, all of the entire comic book industry, they knew Stan Lee, period.
And Stan created the Smilin' Stan persona and could turn that thing on like a nuclear light switch and just like 1,000 suns, Smilin' Stan, and everyone loved him.
And through that persona, he built a community that wouldn't exist without him.
Well, I mean, he's said himself in interviews that the soapbox was him just talking directly to readers. It was him engaging in just whatever was on his mind. He wanted to talk to the readers about, and a lot of stuff is it makes it more of a personal connection to the comic. It's like, Kevin, you've submitted many letters over the years that have gotten printed and stuff, and that's a deeper connection to the material, and that's what Stan brought to a lot of books was with his soapbox was just this connection. You might have read the story, but there was a connection to it that you got from his soapbox or the little quotes that he had here and there throughout the books. So
I was going to say, Scott and Bryce, the Marvel guys, let's hear it.
I mean, don't you feel... So Kevin posted 2 of Stan's post soapboxes from the letters pages. And I can remember as a kid reading through those yellow letters pages. And whatever it was in or whatever Stan was saying, that was just part of the experience. You only bought a couple comic books, period, and I would savor everything, even all the letters pages. So,
which is different. I don't pay attention to most back material anymore.
No, not anymore. But then I did, and it just, you think about the characters that he started and put out there, Spider-Man being one of them, with a very simple, with great power comes great responsibility, and then when that's pounded into your head as a kid, that's a pretty big deal. When you read the X-Men and it's about a race of people being subject to being hunted down and hated and persecuted because of who they weren't, that's pretty impactful because those are your heroes. And you're like, why are these people doing that? And it says a lot about what he thought about society, and it was massively impactful. Fantastic Four was all about family and making sure that the people that are around you are that important to you. So just the thought and the building of those 3 titles was hugely impactful.
He also brought us Black Panther and Falcon, and he wanted diversity because he wanted comics to represent everybody.
Well, Stan integrated the U.S. Armed Forces before it was actually integrated. Because in the old Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, they have multiracial platoons and units, which wasn't the case in the real World War II. So Stan was way ahead of the curve. And when he would go to give talks at colleges in the late 60s, can you imagine being on a college campus and Stan Lee comes to speak? Not even as a commencement speaker, just to hang out and talk? Yeah. Wow, that must have been incredible.
Wow.
Bryce?
Yeah, I mean,
hard to summarize in 5 minutes, but what's your...
Yeah, I am on the younger side of the crew, so I didn't... I wasn't as conscious of my comics in the 80s, and came up with the more image creators and obviously the greatest comics on earth, the X-Men. But yeah, I mean, nothing that I can say hasn't already been said. I mean, he was unparalleled, and as you mentioned, the greatest influence in comics, an ambassador to comics in the world. I had so many text messages asking me if I was okay.
I got it too.
And it was like...
Now, question before you go on. Were the people that asked you, were they not really big comic book fans?
They were not comic fans. I only got text. I didn't get text from any of you bastards. I got text.
We knew we were going to see you.
From all of. Yeah, you did. Okay.
And you don't reply.
Every single person that I heard
I would
from,
have gotten to it.
and that was actually like almost like upset in some cases, were from people that aren't comic book fans.
Yeah.
Every comic book fan I talked to was like, yeah.
Yeah, it was all
again,
my mother-in-law, all the normals. All the normals were like,
But-
"Are you okay? Do you need a hug?"
And it's not that we don't care. I think
Exactly.
we knew.
We knew it
We've
was coming.
all
I mean,
accepted this.
If you go through we've gone through this stage of grief. Like we've already. I mean, when he lost his wife, we knew that it was only a matter of time.
I'm sure.
So I don't really see it that way. As I said, I was expecting it. I've been dreading it for years now. It doesn't mean that it didn't feel like it sucked the energy out of me afterwards.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
of course.
Of course, you still go through the sense of grief. It's like everything else. Life kind of has to move forward. You can't sit there and be like, "Oh, my day is over now." And
Again, I mean, I don't want to be, kind of, but cryptic about this. But this is what they do. Every single website had their Stan Lee passes away at age X on this date Y. Fill in the dates, hit enter. I mean, that's just how things work when you get to that age. This was it is just interesting. Like you said, I got a number of messages from people, and they were not my comic book people. It was like my mom. It was my random friend who was like not really a comic book guy. He's just like Stan. Again, but I bet if you asked him how old is Stan Lee, I don't think they would have said 95. I don't think they knew. Stan Lee's this thing that's on the TV that isn't a person, right?
Well, even within the comic community, he up until the last few years, he always felt larger than life. Like if you wanted to talk
recently,
it's recently that you kind of had to be faced with the fact that he is mortal, because he didn't seem like mortal until the last couple of years.
And again, we all knew Stan Lee. Go around, 2000, 2002, the movies are starting to come out, definitely 2008 and up. Stan Lee was something they knew as well outside these doors.
Well, it's like when we watched the movie and we saw the Stan Lee cameo, we were like, yes, and people were like, what are you doing? That's Stan Lee, and they're like,
oh,
who?
but maybe an Iron Man, but by now everyone knows who he is.
Now.
Yeah. And he's going to get a standing ovation when he cameos in Avengers 4, I'm sure. So, or Captain Marvel would be the next one.
Yeah.
So,
and probably both.
Oh, they've already filmed.
They've filmed
multiple.
They already filmed.
So,
did you see the Brian Bendis thing in the New York Times?
I saw that he had like a comic strip that he did. Right,
it's like
I didn't.
His story of meeting.
I didn't read it yet, though.
Well, one of the things in it is it's really worth checking out for anybody listening. It's in the New York Times. If you just Google Brian Bendis, Stan Lee.
Brian Bendis, is he related to that Brian Michael Bendis guy?
Yeah, that's him. Okay. I think it might be the same guy.
DC Comics creator Brian Michael Bendis.
But one of the things that comes out in that story is him and Stan Lee having lunch, and Stan saying to Brian, I can't watch the Marvel movies because I can't hear and my eyesight is almost gone.
Yeah. So
he was even in this article or this illustrated essay, I guess would be more, Stan saying, I heard the Winter Soldier is great. I can't see any of them anymore.
Oh, fucking hell.
So he's in these cameos, but he's got no idea what's even around
going on. Yeah.
And
he has the best lines.
There's been a lot of reports because of all the drama around him about how he doesn't know what he's signing because of eyesight issues and like that kind of thing. So,
well, okay. So, I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but like, doesn't this only just shine more light on elder abuse?
Yeah.
Like, isn't this like incredibly, incredibly common? Happens all the time, and we're only lamenting that it's happening to him, even though it happens to every elderly person.
It usually doesn't happen to like a multimillionaire, though, right? I mean, that's the thing.
But it probably does happen to every multimillionaire elderly person.
I guess his family's very minimal, and there wasn't. Again, I don't know all the specifics. There was a bodyguard that was involved in some shenanigans. His daughter's kind of a mess. There's extra family. There's like, that's it. Like, that's his family. Like, a bunch of bad people got a hold of his finances.
This is pretty. I mean, it really got severe after his wife died.
Yeah. And it's the last. Word is his wife was kind of keeping this at bay. And then once she passed away, a lot of bad people got their hooks into him. And so, yes, clearly, this is a horrible situation to have happen. And whoever was kind of there was no trust, or there was no group, or I mean, again, I don't know the specifics. I don't think we ever will. But it feels like whatever would protect a person like him, that was never set into place. Again, there's been some talk that he actually didn't have a lot of money, and again, all rumors, so who knows specifically? But the word is his daughter kind of she just spent like it was going out of style, and they just kind of kept, and that was his only child, so she just kept living off him, and there's other people are involved, and they were just like, especially at the end, like Charlie said, signing Black Panther comics with vials of blood in the ink, and going to these cons, and he has literally no idea what's happening, right? When he's at these conventions. And so, yeah, it's terrifying.
Typical blood ink. I signed all my contracts with that. What's the big deal?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's awful. But I mean, dude, when you get to the end of your life, like, I mean, not to, turn this into too much of an elderly abuse special, but I mean,
this isn't Better Call Saul.
People, well played.
So good.
I mean, the courts and the law, they just want it to be resolved, and so they'll be like, okay, who is the best person to take care of this? And if you can put up a compelling case, then they'll make you power of attorney. They'll give you power of attorney, and then power of attorney can literally do anything with this person's assets. It's crazy and so manipulatable.
John Oliver did a really good segment on it on Last Week Tonight, like last
Elder
year.
Care. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen every episode. I don't remember, but that's more because I have a bad memory than because he is.
He's brilliant.
But I don't want to.
He's really good.
End on this on bad stuff. I mean, everyone listening to this podcast loves something that Stan Lee created. Every single person listening to this podcast has been wildly influenced in some way or another by him. I mean, it's almost impossible.
Rapid fire. Favorite Stan Lee creation / influence. Everyone gets a turn. Go for it. Stop thinking. Just go.
I mean, how do you not say Spider-Man?
Okay, Brock.
I'm X-Men.
God damn it.
I mean, do you even have to ask me?
It's Spider-Man. Yeah,
It's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
For me, it's X-Men.
you're saying FF.
FF would be my first answer.
Yeah,
Or Marvel's version of Thor, guided by
yeah.
Stan and Jack, was amazing.
Charlie,
come on, it's rapid fire.
Oh,
Don't
be
brief. You got to go last.
He doesn't even have the puzzle quest out.
Yeah. It's an excuse now. Scott's got Puzzle Quest, and he gave an answer right away.
Most of the time, my answer would probably be Spider-Man, but there have definitely been parts of my life where my answer would be X-Men.
I mean, I'm not even like the biggest Spider-Man fan by any stretch of the imagination, but for me, it's a short list of the most important comic book characters of all time is Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. Like 1, 2, 3, no question.
Yeah.
Right? Like to me, Spider-Man is. I mean, look at the movies just to show how popular this character can become. This is just a character that to me, any person, any generation, young and old, can like the X-Men. And I'm not trying to dissuade your guys' picks.
No.
The X-Men is a difficult topic, right? That really, I think, takes an adult mind to appreciate the complexity of that. Spider-Man is something that literally every person can understand and that's to me, that's why I think, again, and Doctor Strange and Hulk and other characters, Thor
On.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's endless. But to me, Spider-Man is just so.
He's relatable.
Quintessential.
So
it's
sure,
it's
yes.
really
Sure.
it's funny that you say that because I say X-Men as just a default answer, but like if I'm being real, I was born way after Stan was writing them, right?
Yeah.
Like I guess I love them as his they are my favorite creation of his, but I never read until later. But
So Stan's X-Men was the original 5.
right.
But you like the later team.
Exactly.
And that's
So
Len
that's why
Wein.
I'm sort of capitulating this point is that I'm not going to change my vote from X-Men because go fuck yourself. But, I mean, it otherwise might be something like Spider-Man because I didn't read, for years and years, especially when I was a kid, didn't read any Stanley X-Men. I mean, that would come way, way later.
So even
I grew up on
even
Claremont.
to kind of bridge on that a little bit, I kind of feel like Stan Lee's contribution to X-Men, you can definitely kind of get in there with like Magneto and the Brotherhood and that kind of stuff. But his contribution to Spider-Man, if you start listing all the big villains who are still big villains, almost all of them, not all of them, but almost all of them came from Stan Lee. If you talk about influential stories that still resonate in the books today, most of those came from Stan.
Yeah. I mean, Spider-Man's top 12 villains all appear in the first 12 issues of Spider-Man. Like, it's incredible.
Outside of Venom, they're all the Stan Lee creations, right?
Well, the thing is, if you look at Spider-Man
and Hobgoblin,
is what you were saying, Ryan, is that he's a relatable character. He's more like everybody else, but he has powers. You know, Carnage. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
He has loss, right? He loses Uncle Ben, right?
What?
Spoiler.
God, you guys suck.
But the basis of Peter Parker is just very concrete. He's a kid who's, going through like high school and stuff like that. So, okay.
No, what are you saying? No, continue.
Well, that's the thing. You were asking why he's relatable.
Yeah.
And it's because...
No, I know why he's relatable.
a lot of those little details everybody can relate to.
Well, I'll just give a quick Stan shout out. My comics education as a kid started reading Origins of Marvel Comics, Son of Origins, and Bring on the Bad Guys.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Where Stan writes these essays. Stan writes these essays in there about the creation of each of those characters, where the idea started, how they grew it out from there. And again, do you want to say Stan did 60%, Kirby did 40, 50-50, 70-30, whatever.
Yeah.
These two guys together. But anyway, he really deconstructs the whole concept and the character, and those things are great, and they still hold up now.
Yeah.
I love them at whatever, age 10.
Yeah.
I love them now. They're really good. If anybody doesn't have those books, they are worth seeking out.
They really are. I second that.
There was I saw a few people, when posting Stan Lee stuff, posted pictures of Captain America. And I saw a bunch of people were like, he didn't create Captain America. He did not create Captain America. That is factually true. However, there's no Captain America in 2018 without Stan Lee. I don't think this character would have, and Namor, and for that matter, right, and the Human Torch. I think these characters, again, would not have existed today in any capacity had Stan not done something with them. I mean, you owe as much to those characters with Stan Lee as you do with the original creators.
So would you say that he made America great again? I mean, sorry, Captain America.
Captain America, he absolutely did.
Well, the thing is, Captain America was very... I mean, Captain America was the political propaganda against, Nazi Germany. And
for a little while.
But the thing is
it became like a horror comic at the end. It was like one of those weird Marvel anthologies. Yeah, look up it's like Captain America's... What did the book become? It became Captain America's Scott should be yelling at me about this. He knows this. In the 50s, the Captain America comic was literally a horror comic. They changed the name to something weird. I don't remember what it was called. It was like Captain America's Thrilling Tales or something weird. Weird ass.
Yeah, you're way... That's Golden Age. And
yeah.
When he was in Timely and all those Timely books, I mean... When the swastika was flying and you're going, what is that all about?
Yeah, the mythology is Cap, quote, dies in 1945 and then is brought back in Avengers 4.
Yeah.
Cap was being published in the 50s.
Yeah. But it was a way different thing.
Yeah, but they've tried to reconcile it in stories over the years. Who was that Captain America while Steve Rogers was frozen?
It's one thing too when he dies.
Later.
When he dies in 45, it comes back in 2010 or something like that. It's another thing when you think about him dying in 1945 and then coming back in 1961. It's it wasn't that long later. It was 15 years later. It reads a little different when it's not 50 years, right?
How long was Wolverine dead?
Like a week.
What? Dude, he's gonna have the Infinity Gauntlet. He just retcon all that away. He was never dead.
Whatever happened to the other Wolverine?
They're giving Wolverine the Infinity Gauntlet. It's crazy.
I really want to go back to the podcast episode where Professor X died and Higgins said, he'll be back in a week.
Didn't he come back already? Wasn't he back in Astonishing X-Men?
No, that wasn't the real him.
His brain
Don't you
came
dare.
back in Uncanny Avengers.
Yeah, he'll be back. It's fine.
No,
Cyclops is back.
That was the astral plane. Don't be so ignorant.
Don't you know anything?
You know,
I'm still trying to find this fucking picture of my son and Stan Lee.
He's been honestly flipping through his phone looking for this
I'm going through the entire history of my
just
family
go to
photos.
Facebook and look up when it was.
I did. I must not have not posted it.
you know, we'll never stop talking about Stan Lee. Half of everything we talk about involves him in some fashion. So, you know, I actually did have a our good friend. Let me get it up here. Our good friend Julian Titus sent me a nice little note. He wanted me to ask if I could read here. And actually, he messages a little bit about the kind of character assassination of Stan Lee too here. So let me read Julian's reply. He said, "Celebrity deaths have always come and gone for me with little notice, but I knew that losing Stan Lee was going to be a really rough one for me. Even though I had braced myself for it, I was prepared for how hard it actually hit me. I found out about it on my lunch break, but I was surprised when I felt just a little sad and nothing major. I worked at the same office as my girlfriend, and when I told her that's when the tears started to flow. That made it real. I think it's safe to say that Stan Lee is responsible for a large part of geek culture. It was those early days of comics, along with pulpy sci-fi books, that gave birth to the fan conventions. And I say with no hyperbole that I was able to embrace my geekness thanks to him. There's little I could say about the man that hasn't already been said, but his influence has such profound impact on my life that I may never know just how important he is to me." And that's an important part there. I remember telling Neil Gaiman this when I met him at a signing, that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't continue reading comics, and I wouldn't have...
Wait, is this Julian or you?
No, this is me. This is me talking right now. But you guys say, that is, in my personal case, yeah, Sandman and Vertigo and those books are what kept me reading in the short time where I wasn't, I don't know what that is, where I wasn't reading. Whereas, Stan Lee, none of this would be here if it wasn't for him. Yeah. So it's way more than personal. It's way more than just a personal.
Well, I mean, it's the groundwork. No. It's that, like you said, those iconic characters that you remember, right?
Yeah.
Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, like all those things that started us out in however we got into comics, be it actual comic books or animated shows or video games or cartoons, or it was some random toy that we found somewhere and we liked it. So that's where Stan really came in for everybody.
Julian finishes up here. He says, "Now I'm sure there's already a bunch of assholes out there that couldn't wait to start and try to diminish Stan's contribution to the comics, saying things like he wasn't that good of a writer,
or he wasn't that good,
or he didn't really come up with most of the characters." But you know what? Fuck those people, and I agree with that. Stan was a great ambassador for comic books right up to his death. He was like every comic book fan's cool uncle, the one you always look forward to visiting because he told the best stories. Hell, he wasn't just that to comic book fans. Stan was everyone's cool uncle. We lost a Titan today, and the only thing left that I can say is Excelsior. So, yes. Definitely agree with a lot of that, Julian. I'm sure we'll have more to say about him. I'm sure there will be a very big funeral service. Again, Marvel will announce something, I'm sure, in the next coming weeks to see what they're going to do. And we'll keep you guys updated. So if you've had some big thoughts on Stan Lee and you want to send him into the podcast, we'll maybe read a few of them in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we have a big post on the Facebook group about it, so you can go to share your thoughts there. Let's move on. Some not really news. Let's move on to something else. Now, Bryce.
Oh, shit.
Oh, I'm ready.
You like beer?
I've been known to.
Beer.
I've been known to. I like it more than literally anybody at this table.
Would you say you're the Brett Kavanaugh of liking beer? No, sorry, not in that way. I mean, just podcast. You like beer. You like to have a drink.
I mean, me and Brett Kavanaugh could not be more different. Okay. Other than that, we both do like beer, but he probably likes shitty beer. I like delicious beer.
The reason I ask is because our good friend Kevin Sharp, many months ago, over, I believe, a couple beers. Am I getting the story incorrect? I believe you guys were...
I know where this is going.
Okay.
All right.
I was wondering how you're going to bring this in for a landing, but go ahead.
Yeah. You guys had a nice, long conversation, which you promptly forgot about.
Hey, that's been known to never happen when I've had multiple beers.
Now, multiple times, we've tried to bring this topic up on the podcast, and just things have happened where it just wasn't going to happen. And I was like, well, we are 100% doing it when you're here. Let's make sure.
It was originally going to be
his last episode.
Farewell. Yes.
That episode just became its own, a beast of itself.
Yes.
And we just were never going to get to it.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have Kevin's poem framed? In your office?
It's not framed, but I did not use it as toilet paper.
Oh, well, if those are the two extremes.
He keeps it in his wallet next to the picture of his wife. It's like right there.
It's somewhere in between.
So,
the door.
Someone want to go get the door for Lane? Thank you. Oh, Nadia's got it.
Oh.
Thank you, Nadia. So this conversation was not TV, not cartoons, movies. The conversation was movies, correct?
Right,
or animated
animated movies.
When you say
right.
not cartoons,
right? Not
TV shows.
What are your not just 3 favorite, adaptations of comics into a film, but also what kind of. What's the word I'm looking? I'm looking for another word.
An audio format.
I'm looking for another word here. I'm looking for another word. Hey, more than just what are your favorites. Also, what do you feel are some of the most important? What's a good combination of those?
What are my
two?
coming of age tales? Maybe via cinematic comic book movies.
And Kevin wanted to have this. Kevin did some research. He printed us up a hell of a list.
No, there's no way you didn't fucking find that and copy paste
that
it.
was cobbled from multiple sources, and then I had to add in other. Items on there for certain people at the table.
Yeah.
And you missed one.
Okay. But the idea was...
The Geoforce animated movie?
No.
The idea was...
it Harley Quinn?
No.
Oh. That's all that you like. What else could it have been? That's never happened before. Don't pull my mic away from me.
I had to add in others that I knew people at the table were interested in. And so... the whole premise was it started life as a comic, not became one afterwards.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be superhero.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be current, but it just had to start life in comics form.
I mean, so for those that may have not understood, so Kevin sent us a PDF of, I mean, it's not a dozen pages, but...
I think it's 8.
8 pages... rounding up to the nearest dozen, it's at least a dozen pages, and it's single line, single space
You lost him
movies.
In single space.
What font was it, Bryce?
It was Times New Roman 11.
Okay.
And
How those margins? Margins, all right.
he used wide margins, not narrow margins. We could have gotten that down to 7 pages if he'd used wide margins. And rounding up to the nearest dozen, it's still a dozen pages. Anyway, so the point is, this is an impossible ask of me because there's way too many caveats. Is it the formative movies? Is it the quote-unquote best movies? Is it the most...
your favorite. However you want if you want to make that the best...
But we can agree that my favorites when I was 9 are going to be different than my favorites when I'm 16, my favorites when I'm 25,
well, when
my favorites when I'm 29, which I am now.
Toby's list, Toby picked his top 3, one representing each kind of era of his life.
Okay, well, I wish you'd fucking told me that before
That
right
was Toby's
now.
pick. I didn't set that out as a rule.
Okay, I'm going to let Scott go first because I'm a generous man.
And you need to go over the...
Well, so it's honorable mention and 3, 2, 1.
So I cut out all of the superhero movies because I felt like I wanted to narrow it down.
Bold move, Shea.
And I went with my top 4.
You made it. It was.
Do you want to hear Scott's whole list, or should
it was
we
really
do it?
hard for you to cut.
Yeah,
Blade off
no.
of that,
Just Scott's full list.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
What, you don't want to do my full list?
Yeah.
No, I meant like you like.
Oh, we
this.
go one at a time.
It's up to Ryan. He's the boss.
Let's go one at a time.
If you want to, let's do that. Let's do
so just start with honorable mention.
What's your number 4?
My honorable mention.
Oh, I found it!
After 1 hour, ladies and gentlemen, Bryce Larsen has found his Stan Lee, JT, BL photo.
I did see that. Yeah. It's a good picture. It's a good picture.
Wow, I'm so now off track. My
What's your
honorable
number 4?
mention I love for its creativeness, the way it was filmed out, came straight out of the manga, whatever.
Just take one and own it.
And that's Scott Pilgrim. I
Also not a manga.
It was kind of a manga, wasn't it? Whatever.
It was an American comic book.
It's an American comic book that was supposed to be like a manga. How do you say comic book in American?
And by comic book and by manga, you clearly meant the American translation of that, which is comic book.
Right, exactly.
You're just speaking as native Japanese.
Don't be racist, Ryan.
Yeah. But I love Scott Pilgrim. I liked all the kind of the video gamey stuff on the side, the Scott Pilgrim versus battles. I just loved it.
Have you ever read the book?
Yes, I have. It's like the same. It's great.
Bryce.
Okay, so we're doing honorable mention. Yeah. My honorable mention is going to go to a 3-way tie. Between
why did you do this to a shark?
Between Howard the Duck, the Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the Dolph Lundgren Punisher. The reason that those are my runners-up is because they planted the seed of people want these live-action Marvel movies, and they are all so good they're bad, or so bad they're good. I'm still not sure where I land on those. But they all sort of establish this base of, we acknowledge you guys want them, we're going to work on them. They would later become much more successful and, what's the word? Oh, good. But those were sort of the foundation is way too generous for those movies. But, you got to start somewhere, and there still isn't another Howard the Duck movie other than after credit scenes.
Kevin and Toby?
I will do Toby's first. Toby's is Superman the movie, and he's using this as to represent his youngest years on the scale of these.
He didn't have an honorable mention?
That's honorable mention, okay. Yeah. And he was mentioning that he gets nostalgic when he hears the theme music. We'll come back to this topic. Mine will be The Rocketeer. And still, after all these years, I think that's 1991, something like that. There's never been, to me, a better visual translation of a comic. As far as like looking exact, I don't know, the actors, the sets, it looks exactly like a Dave Stevens comic.
Well, what about Watchmen?
Okay.
What? Watchmen?
No. I understand. And Sin City is another example.
From hell.
I'm saying that
and how much earlier is that?
The people they cast.
Okay, fair
it
play.
Looks like somebody waved a wand over the comics page and these rose into real life. It's not just recreating the panels; it's everything.
That movie's just fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It was really fun. I'm not trying to disagree so much as to bring other things in
Are you going through the list?
Yes, thank you. That's
No,
awesome.
I'm on Puzzle Quest.
Okay, just
Charlie, you got an honorable
Do you even have
mention
to
you
ask?
want for your list here.
He's getting ahead of me.
Yes,
Shea.
I'm going to go with Turtles Forever.
Okay, that's the CG one, right?
No. Turtles Forever was... So they had
That's
the
not
original...
number 3.
That's
the honorable mention.
Wait, Turtles 3?
No, Turtles... Okay, let me explain what Turtles Forever is.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What is this?
Turtles Forever was... They had the 80s series, then they had a series in the 90s. The last thing they did for the series in the 90s was a big crossover with the Turtles from the 80s and the comic book Turtles in a TV movie that sort of combined all three.
That's what I meant. That wasn't CG, huh?
Ever, man.
No.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Was it as... There's no way it was as amazing as you just made it sound.
I thought it was pretty amazing.
Confirmed it was
And
terrible.
even the CGI Turtles that they have now have crossed over with the 80s Turtles a number of times.
That sounds awesome.
The ones
and
they
I guarantee you it's
had.
terrible.
The ones they have now are just crap, and I refuse to watch it.
Oh,
but
look
the ones
who's
right
Mr.
before that
Picky.
one...
His name is Higgins. Oh.
My honorable mention is one of my favorite comic movies of all time. I think it gets too much hate.
Justice League.
I think it's way better than people give it credit for. No, and that is Dick Tracy. The 1990 Dick Tracy, Warren Beatty.
Oh, that doesn't need to be honorable mention. That's like a good, so bad
Madonna.
it's a good movie.
No, people hate that movie. A lot of people really hate that movie.
Tracy's
It's crazy.
cool.
I love Dick Tracy.
It's a great movie.
It is. I love this movie. It's just
appreciate the camp.
It is among the most visually interesting comic movies ever made. Just they go for that style, and I think it works really well. It's funny, it's action packed. It's got a little bit of the Tim Burton Batman kind of haze on it. That's just typical of every movie of that point.
Was it post Tim Burton Batman?
Yeah, just
1 year later, I think.
But it has that feel to it. Again, that movie touched every movie out for the next decade. But it's still its own thing, and I love that movie. I really do love that. It's just it's so cool.
It's so cool to look at.
Yeah,
I actually rewatched it not too long ago.
Yeah. Every couple of years I watch it. I really like it. I think it holds up. Blu-ray release is really good too.
Yeah.
Oh, it really brings out those excellent effects.
Oh, those matte paintings. Oh God, they're gorgeous. Yeah. Some of those matte painting backgrounds are.
I had it on my
gorgeous.
watch list on Amazon for a long time, and then it finally hit a really cheap price. So I bought it and then immediately watched it.
Yeah.
What I don't understand about this logic is that you have so much shit on your Amazon wish list that you are so picky and
Black Friday, baby,
and just wait until it goes to a certain low price. But there's so much shit that you buy. Why don't you just buy less shit and then you can buy it at a normal price whenever you want it?
Because I take a certain amount of satisfaction knowing. So here's the thing you have to understand about me.
Oh dear God!
Even stuff I get given as a gift, I don't want people to pay retail price for. I literally sometimes will someone will say, I need your Christmas list. And I'll give them a Christmas list with a link to the cheapest price I'm aware of for the item.
Or a digital coupon if you can find it.
The stuff I care about less goes on my Amazon list and I buy when it is cheap. The stuff I care about more, I pre-order. And pay full price.
Brock, your honorable mention.
Yes.
Higgins is the more genetically perfect Charlie. Is that what I'm understanding?
My honorable mention would probably have to be The Mask. With Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
I just remember being at an age where that movie just really resonated. It was Jim Lee's career was kind of at that.
Jim Carrey's.
Well, tomato.
The paper screws up. The paper screws up Stan Lee's name for an obituary, calling him Spike Lee. So I had to. But it was fun and it was energetic. And it really had a good feel to it. So I just remember really enjoying that movie and, just having a really good, it was the first time I really had a good time watching a comic book adapted movie.
I really like that one
plus Cameron
too.
Diaz.
Yeah, Cameron Diaz. I was, that was.
I tweet mask gifs all the time.
Yeah, but that's not a fucking short list. You tweet gifs of everything all the fucking time.
A lot of mask gifts, okay? A lot of mask gifts.
A lot of the time.
Or if it has to do with the collector.
Scott, what's your number 3?
Number 3 would be Red.
Red was really good.
I liked Red.
Why the hell are you making this weird list?
He cut out all superheroes.
I cut out all the superhero movies because I love them all.
Too much?
From Superman to the late 80s Batman to Nolan Batman to all the Marvel movies I love, so I just made the list easier on myself and picked my top 3 favorite comic book adaptations, non-superhero category. Look.
Do whatever you want, man.
You already hated on me.
Do you? Keep going.
What do you like about
Do
Red?
I have to pull a Toby on you right now?
You will start yelling uncontrollably.
I liked Red. I loved Bruce. I loved. I just liked all. I love old guys doing badass stuff. I like Liam Neeson movies now because he's an old badass dude. Old people doing badass stuff is awesome.
No, Red was really good.
I have not seen Red.
Red is
Scott.
is good.
So
I've never watched it.
So now I feel sort of under the gun to perform at a higher level than normal because I had all superhero movies, each from a different phase of my life. Just like Mr. Tobias, but I swear my idea came first.
So bad that we know when you're lying on this show.
I am supposed to shout out, by the way, that Toby, when I gave Toby the homework assignment, Lane, I don't know when this was, May, And I said, think about it for a couple of weeks. We're going to do it in Bryce's last episode. And Toby had his answer in like 10 seconds and ranked. And I'm supposed to let everybody know this.
I'm glad he put a lot of thought into it.
Yes.
That's typical of Toby.
Look, when it comes to love, you don't have to think about it a lot.
Well, I've been looking in all the wrong places.
Do I need to tell Kelly that?
I was looking in all the wrong places.
You go. Recovery.
That's a verbal typo. It's a VIPO. Don't repeat that. Okay, so my third place, just because something has to be at the bottom of the list, Captain America. My third place is the original Superman movie. Because we're going through this chronologically, I was but a wee lad, and I was but a wee lad on the farm at Larsen Farms, and it was the morning of December 12th, 1982, when I decided that I wanted to watch the very first Superman movie, and Christopher Reeve did a bloody good job portraying the Man of Steel, and I really thought he was
going
he
on?
did.
Born? Are you live?
Did you say Born?
I'm laughing right now because there actually kind of is a Larsen Farms right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just sort of riffing, but there is a Larsen farm, and much to my family's chagrin, I don't have anything to do with it. But that's a Bryce Briefly right there, motherfucker. So it would be.
Shout out to Trent.
He's not listening, but he would love it. So yeah, Superman 1 for me. I mean, for the reasons that have already been said, but I mean that was like the first. I think. I mean, it's got to be the first like superhero movie that I saw on TV, and it was Superman, and he was flying, and I couldn't believe it. And Christopher Reeve is just so great, but I'm disappointed in myself for having such a cliche, boring answer. But that's my answer.
It's yours. Own it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna own it, motherfucker.
Okay, so Toby's, I'm going to go with. So Toby gave me these in chronological order as far as his phase of life. So I'm going TMNT for Toby's number 3.
That was baby Toby. Still in Switzerland.
Childhood/teen years.
Still in Switzerland, Toby.
So Lane, which TMNT is this? Do you know?
Turtles, the 90s one.
Yeah, he's talking about
It's the very first one,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So that's the one that represents his childhood/teen years. Okay. That's just only a comment on that. All right. So I'll go.
Good talk, Toby.
My number 3 will be Batman Begins, which I know I'm going to get some pushback at this table. I will still say is the best of the Nolan trilogy.
Oh my God! Go pull your head out of your ass.
Here's my argument, and I know what some choices that are coming.
Is
So
your
let me
argument
just-
the fairy scene? Because
No.
I will grant you that.
No. My argument is if
fucking hate
if
it.
you didn't see any of the movies and I just handed you the 3 scripts and you read them, you would say Batman Begins is the tightest, best constructed narrative of the
That's
3.
not what your
But I'm saying
question
that,
was.
but that carries it for me. It's my favorite story of the trilogy.
But your question wasn't to rank our favorite stories.
I said use whatever criteria you want to call favorite. Class, I've repeated this fucking comment, and I've gone explicit.
No,
27 times.
no.
We for months
Got
at this
explicit
point. For
from you.
months.
That's amazing.
Yes.
4 months.
Yes. Yes.
Like, look, I cut it down because I wanted to cut it down. It made it.
Yes.
It broadens me.
I'm
it
just
pushes me.
randomly
It
picking at this
stretches
point.
me.
okay.
How many podcasts has Kevin sworn on more than me?
1.
We're tied. You've sworn once on this.
Have I? God
Yes.
damn it.
Just like 3 minutes ago.
I don't know.
That's what opened the floodgates. Anyway, Batman Begins is my number 3. Charlie.
Dark Knight is my number 3.
Oh!
And it's purely my number 3 from I walked out of that movie and went, there's nothing I would change about this movie.
What about the fucking ferry scene? That was awful. The barge, not ferry.
I would not change anything about that movie.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, you're entitled to be wrong once every 10 minutes, and you just checked that box.
I thought he said fairy scene, and I was
Like
like
a fairy with wings?
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
It's the detonator scene, right?
Yeah.
On the 2. Yeah.
That is the worst scene in that whole movie. The rest of the movie is gold. But God damn it.
Well, my number 3, modern classic. They did it. I don't know how, but they did it, and that's Avengers. They did it. Whenever I have to defend this movie, because, again, some weirdness around people that aren't liking Avengers
Whenever
these
you have
days.
to defend
There's people that don't like
the
Avengers.
second greatest movie of all time. Who do you have to defend this to? Like yourself in the mirror?
There's some Whedon hate. There's some Avengers hate. The first, they did it. Yep. That's all I need to say. They did it. That's it. They did it.
They did it a lot better than Justice League.
That's the end of the argument.
It feels like a big, fun Avengers annual, that movie.
I mean, literally, just the fact that they had this plan and they succeeded. They made an Avengers movie after making all these solo movies. They did it. That's, yeah. Now, I mean, I love Winter
Soldier. It's like the Wu-Tang Clan in reverse.
Right? I'm sure someone gets that. I mean, I love Winter Soldier. I love a number of Marvel movies more than Avengers. However, Avengers takes a very special spot because of the fact of what it is. So, Brock.
Wow, a very special spot at number 3. Literally the last place in the discussion.
I guess for me it would have to be Batman Returns. Because it has one of the best lines in a movie ever. In the dialogue. No, it's when Selena and Bruce are dancing at the costume party or at the party, and they're under the mistletoe, and then they have the thing, and she goes, "Do we need to fight now?" And the music playing in that scene is fucking awesome.
Mistook me for someone else.
Yeah. But I think that overall, Batman Returns really. I mean, it was Tim Burton's second try at Batman, and he made it even more epic with just what he did with that movie.
So not to disagree, but just to get more out of you, what makes it better and different than number 1 for you?
It's just the culmination of he kind of perfected everything. There was a lot that Batman, the first one, brought to the character. But I think it was fleshed out a lot better and more seamless in the second one. I mean, Jack Nicholson as Joker was fantastic, but the movie had so many different feelings to it as you went through it, where Batman Returns kind of had just this fluid motion. It just felt more contained and more...
Just Christopher Walken alone, just go, Dad, save yourself. No, Chip, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna save you from the Penguin Man. Just the whole conversation with him and his son, that's a Christopher Walken sound-alike, is amazing. That entire sequence is my favorite scene in that movie.
And Michelle Pfeiffer is incredible.
She does a fantastic job.
They did a statue recently. This is Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman, and they have the Hell Here. The busted out LED neon sign in the back. I almost want to just buy the neon sign. Yeah. I don't even need the statue. I just want the neon sign that says "Hell Here."
Let you have the statue at home.
So good.
Yeah, it is so good.
Number 2 for me is Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 is about brotherhood. It's a fun kind of action-adventure movie, and like normal movies, it pulls at the heartstrings, and it's just about brothers.
Bryce is shaking his head.
It's not always a good...
Big Hero 6 was really good.
It's not a great...
It was really good.
It's fantastic.
I'm not going to rebuff his number 2 choice, except to say that, I mean, your number 2 favorite adaptation of all time
is Big Hero 6.
I mean,
well, hold on, Scott.
There was hundreds of movies that he gave us.
Did you see some of them?
Scott,
which
technically
animated movie?
Big Hero 6. Technically, Big Hero 6 is a superhero movie. It's based on a Marvel comic.
Nice try, Scott.
Whatever.
For breaking your
It's based
own
on an
rule.
in-continuity Marvel superhero team.
No.
It's
based
as in they took the name.
False-ish.
Scott
It is-
basically a faker.
Doubtful.
I'm just saying they basically took the name.
I know.
I loved it. I loved it. I watch it every time it's on.
I have
It is-
nothing bad to say about it, other than my derision that it's number 2 of all time.
We should reconvene.
Just because it bumped out
don't
Blade
expose us to
3
this again.
doesn't mean you need to give me a hard time
Blade
about
3 was incredible.
it had Deadpool for the first time.
We should
And
do this
Jessica Biel.
again at some point down the road with no superhero movies.
Yeah.
And just to see Like,
Well, Scott's already.
Yeah.
I'm already there.
Yeah, and his opinions are already wrong.
That's false.
Well, you can wait till the end, and then you can say one that you would never pick.
Bryce, what is your number 2 clearly correct movie?
Well, so I want it on the record that I've intentionally not chosen any Marvel Cinematic movies because they would be numbers 1 through 18 or whatever the fuck, and I've intentionally not chosen
What does
any
Captain America
of
fall on that
the
list?
DC extended universe movies because they're all fucking garbage, except for Wonder Woman. Okay, my number 2 is increasing in chronological order of Bryce's travails towards adulthood. I'll let you know when I get there. Would be X-Men. It's a tie, actually, between X-Men 1 and 2. I am on record this
come
podcast
on.
as saying X-Men 1 allowed for X-Men 2. X-Men 2 is clearly the better film, but X-Men 2 doesn't exist without X-Men 1.
I love X-Men 1, by the way, too. I want to make that very clear, but X-Men 2 is way better.
Way better, no question, but it does not exist without X-Men 1.
Yeah,
You mean that Wolverine movie?
Sure.
You're wrong.
Nope.
Can't believe that's your number 2 all-time movie.
Yeah.
That is just such a load of duty.
Believe it, because those are the best movies. Those 2 movies are better than any non-Wonder Woman DC franchise film. Is that you doing coke because you're trying to match the high that I got when I first saw X-Men 2, not coked out?
That's the crap that's coming out of your mouth right now.
Is the mansion scene in X-Men 2...
Is the what?
The mansion scene, that must be a top 5 superhero fight scene in a comic movie.
I'm going to just jump in here because my number 2 is X2 as well.
There you go. That scene where they raid the X-Men shit,
where the Stryker and his team invades the mansion.
Kevin, you're right. I think that is probably one of the best things that you've said so far.
Well, I'm picking it. Bryce, you may agree here. Scott, you may agree as well. I'm picking it because that's of all the X-Men movies, and I'm counting like the reboots and those. That's the one that feels the most like a Claremont Byrne issue of X-Men to me, is X2.
X2 is the Nightcrawler scene at the beginning.
Oh, my God.
Which is absolutely
and where Iceman
amazing.
Puts the wall up
Kevin,
in the mansion.
you are a brilliant thinking man.
Well,
God damn it. Go fuck yourself, Kevin. Dude, that Nightcrawler scene.
There's another
amazing.
swear.
And by the way, didn't Claremont actually write God Loves Man Kills?
yes.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know that Byrne didn't draw it, but...
It was Brent Anderson drew it.
Oh, well. Interesting that one of us knew that, and it was me, by the way.
Well, I am the number 2 X-Men fan here at the table, so...
Is Charlie number 1? Just kidding.
Anyway, I'm agreeing with Bryce.
Number 1.
X2 is my number 2. I think is by far the best of the X-Men movies.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I know there's a lot of love for First Class, and I didn't see Apocalypse.
Oh,
you're not missing much.
Do not mention Apocalypse in the same sentence as X2 unless you're going to say that they are opposite in goodness.
Okay. So Toby's number 2, we're now into Toby's young adulthood. Oh. Toby's number 2 is The Crow. And his comment
that
is...
sounds like Toby's like adulthood.
My ex asked me what my favorite romantic movie was, and I made her watch The Crow. Needless to say, it didn't work out.
The Crow is like Ryan at his gothiest teenage years.
Always the ladies'
Oh my
man,
god!
Toby.
And then the sequel with the soundtrack.
I never saw sequels, but
City of Angels wasn't horrible.
Yeah,
but it had a really good soundtrack.
Is that young? Is that? I mean, I guess that's like young adulthood. Toby's only like a year younger than me. Like he wasn't that old.
What is The Crow? Was that 94?
Sounds right. 94, 95. Yeah.
No, Crow came out when we were kids.
Yeah. I was
I was a young teenager.
Crow was definitely like Ryan's like
My little Speedo.
I'm listening to this. I watched The Cure. I'm listening. I watched The Crow. I'm now listening to The Cure. Like that was like that right there was when it happened. That was one of
the end of our freshman year.
That was like one of a couple things that Ryan was like.
I've seen photos of you, and I could guess that guy liked The Crow.
And black nail polish. Like that was the thing that pushed me over the edge. Oh, The Crow was so good. Yeah,
Charlie.
Wait, what about your?
I said it.
Oh yeah,
X2.
actually, you did. Yeah, you went. You first instead of somebody.
So for my number 2, it is the Cable movie. You may have to look up the list for Deadpool 2, but it's the Cable movie, and it's because it made my dreams come true.
He's not even in the room, and you say that.
Bryce is going to be
That's
so
why
mad.
you know it's from the heart, and it's not just trolling Bryce.
It's from the heart. That comes from
Bryce.
the true number one Cable fan.
Yep.
Well, my number 2 is a movie I've seen many, many times. It might be the superhero movie I've seen the most.
Please tell me it's not Green Lantern.
No, I've seen that quite a few times, but it's not Green Lantern. And that is Superman 2.
Okay.
I love Superman. I love Superman the motion picture. It is easily top 3 most important comic movies of all time. Superman 2, though, we get the supervillains. It is as close to it's the Avengers, it's the Infinity War of 1979, right?
Yeah.
Like, when did it come out?
81.
It was shit. Okay, well, yes, I was clearly barely born when that movie came out. I would have been 2, but I saw that movie dozens and dozens of times when I was younger, and I continue to love it to this day. Zod, Terrence Stamp is just perfect. I can quote half that movie probably incorrectly, but I still so many great lines in that movie. Superman 2 always goes down on my list of one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. It is so much fun, and yeah, it took the what number 1 did, kind of like you guys saying with X-Men 2. You don't have it without Superman, and I'm not going to say that Superman 2 is a better movie than Superman 1, but on my list, it's my favorite of the 2. So, my favorite of the 4, honestly. So, that's my number 2.
My number 2. Oh, shoot.
Not like you only had 5 months to think about this.
I just looked at the list like 2 minutes ago. I would have to say number 2. I don't know. For me, this one's a toss-up because of just the style of the 2. Or there's 2 that I think would fill this spot, but they're 2 distinctly different styles of movies, but they kind of feel the same tone-wise, and that's Guardians and Ant-Man. I think that those 2 movies brought just a good base, just a good mix of action and comedy, and just visually appealing, stuff that on the screen. And then they're 2 distinctly different types of humor, so it's kind of a toss-up where they fall. So for me, it's those 2 movies would fit in that spot because I couldn't.
Pulling a Bryce.
I got to pull a Bryce.
Multi-spot.
But I'm only doing it once. I'm not doing it like 50 bajillion times because I can't wait for his number 1 where it's like a list of 5.
18 movies, all 18 Marvel.
Did you hear what Charlie's second favorite movie was?
No, I was visiting the head.
It was the Cable movie.
Well, who doesn't love the Cable movie? That's a very good.
Was it in your top 3?
It was. I haven't gotten to my number 1 yet, as I quickly changed my number 1.
I didn't think so. All right.
Wait a minute. Deadpool 2 is your second favorite comic book adaptation movie in history?
It's my second favorite comic book movie in history.
The Cable movie.
It's not necessarily an adaptation. I have to strike that out because if you're talking,
I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember what the file name.
No, this is not. None of this is a direct adaptation.
Yeah.
It's your favorite comic movies.
Yeah.
I thought that the file that we were fucking sent was literally titled adaptations.
It was, but not all. X2 is not an adaptation.
Don't you dare! It was based off of God Loves Man Kills, which was written. Did I get that right?
Which was written, yes.
Somebody loves,
got that right.
Somebody loves and somebody kills. And anyway, okay, so we're okay. God damn it, Charlie!
Charlie for the win.
Number 1 Cable fan
you
secured.
Scott, what's your number 1?
Stinky bastard.
My number 1 is The Crow. And that is
So good.
Bryce is just pouting right now because
Bang, fuck, I'm dead.
I just,
good.
especially when The Crow came out in that in the kind of the grunge era of music, and
you busted out your CZ albums after watching the movie.
God, yeah.
Okay, well, quick question: how many of us owned the Crow soundtrack?
Oh hell yeah!
Everybody
of course, everyone.
I mean, it was just
It has half the table doesn't raise their hand.
it's like one half, and then Bryce was like, "I was only 5."
I remember
that.
hearing that.
I was like at least 11.
I remember hearing that Thrill Kill Cult song, and I'm like, this song is fucking awesome. And then I went and listened to TKK, and I'm like, that's not anything like this song. This song is a way outlier. I still love Thrill Kill Cult, but like it just doesn't sound like them at all.
It was a soundtrack. It was a look that came from the comics that I thought they did a really nice job. It's when you look at it in today's, if you've seen it lately, it's kind of campy, a little over the top. It maybe doesn't hold up, but like what you remember and what it brought you back to does.
There was so much
and
tragedy
it always will.
I mean, there was the concept
eerie.
itself is eerie, and it has this
Bruce
tragic
Lee died
feel,
early,
and then it's like just the death. It was Brandon Lee, right?
Yeah, it was Brandon Lee, Bruce's son,
and it's like there's so much tragedy in that movie, but it really just like it was just I love that movie.
Yeah, Car's awesome.
It was crazy. Bryce.
Would you say that?
Bryce, we gotta get you to the club, man. We gotta get you listening to some Peter Murphy. You'll totally understand afterwards.
I guarantee you that neither Brock nor Shea have been to your club when you DJed.
Brock has.
I have.
You did too, right?
Brock didn't dance at your wedding.
I haven't
He's not
been to
going
my
to the
club
club to dance.
I haven't been to my club in 2 years.
I've been to the
Really?
I
Yeah,
went a
DJed
few
in a
times
while.
when he's been
Oh.
DJing.
Well, I know you didn't dance because. Well, anyway,
Well, people bubble dance at those things. You can't really dance with people.
what the fuck is a bubble dance?
They're in their own bubble.
When you take care of kids.
I guess so.
It's what the bubble boy does when he's in his bubble.
Stay out of my bubble.
What's your number one, Bryce?
Bubble Boy was a
No,
funny movie.
it's the Moops. Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll always have Seinfeld, Bryce.
I'm
We'll always have
sorry.
Seinfeld.
It's the Moops. What? Let me see that. It's the Moors, you idiot. Okay, well, obviously, anticlimactically, the number one comic book movie of all time is Dark Knight, other than the barge scene. The barge scene not included. That is the greatest and most perfect comic book movie ever in existence. I think that the third movie is better than Batman Begins, but I will not take away from the fact that you are doing this crazy nerdy thing of like only reading the script and not actually watching the fucking movie. And then beyond that, I will also add the asterisk caveat that I'm a big sucker for romantic turnarounds of the payoff. The big payoff of this whole trilogy has led to this third movie. So that is just to say that Batman Begins is the worst of the three. But getting back to my original point, Dark Knight, best of the three, except for the barge scene. Oh, that barge scene.
Toby's number one for adulthood.
Wait, come on. We can't have any banter about this?
Hold on. Toby's number one
I'm
is
too
The
busy
Dark
going.
Knight.
We could have an entire podcast of just banter about this.
Toby's number one is The Dark Knight. And I will say,
Good man, Toby.
this is to me, we discussed this on a Christmas episode once. This is to me the difference between Star Wars and Empire. Empire is a better movie. The Dark Knight is a better movie. Star Wars and Batman Begins are my favorite.
Why the fuck would you go out of your way to use Star Wars when I just used that example with X-Men like 5 minutes ago?
I'm in the same boat with him on
What?
Star Wars.
I just used that exact same argument you just made with Empire and Star Wars and New Hope with X2 versus X-Men 1. But instead of throwing that in my face...
Because I'm not trying to throw it in
Because
your
you were
face.
wrong and he was right.
That doesn't sound accurate.
And I come in and I just say Empire, or I just say Jedi's my favorite, and then people look at me
Well,
weird.
Jedi to me is The Dark Knight Rises. Like that, those two trilogies line up, mirror each other for me. You've got the tight, complete little first one that doesn't need a sequel.
Yeah.
You've got the big, darker, more depth, more interesting avenues psychologically sequel, and then you've got the cheesy payoff movie. Those two trilogies exactly
those
mirror
little
each
cannibals
other.
are not cheesy.
Okay. So Toby's number one is The Dark Knight.
That's a very, very good point, Mr. Sharp. That's
Wow. Pardon me then.
I will have to go back and think
Okay.
more upon this.
speaking of anticlimactic, my number one is Superman the movie. It's not perfect. There are some really not good parts in it, but there are some wonderful parts. And Christopher Reeve is absolutely perfect. The score is absolutely perfect. And those two things just elevate it for me. It's nostalgia partly. I can admit the flaws, but those two things just carry it to a level.
That makes you unlike Higgins completely.
That it'll always have a place in my heart. It'll always be my favorite. Charles.
Oh, God. What terrible opinion are you going to give now? You already did Cable movie, Charlie.
Number one is the Cable movie. Because it holds two spots.
I was
the number one fan.
I was very tempted to do that to you, but I chose not to. I decided to take
God damn it, Charlie.
Kevin's homework assignment seriously.
Thank you.
Okay. Just like me.
God damn,
and everybody
but
but Higgins.
Podcast now?
And Toby. And you.
So, for me, the number one spot is the Tim Burton Batman movie.
Yeah, that was
And a large part of the reason for that is, as a kid, I know I saw that movie at least 4 times in the theater. I know it was like my Christmas gift the year it came out on VHS. I watched that VHS tape over and over and over.
We used to call you Big Charlie. Now we got to call you Moneybags Charlie, apparently. Or maybe instead of Handsome Charlie, we call you Moneybags Charlie.
Okay.
4 times in the theater. What is that shirt made out of money?
So I also remember there was a time
I saw Jurassic Park 10 times.
Damn it! God damn it, Scott!
I saw Jurassic Park 10 times in the theater.
I remember my family taking me to
you also bought a comic book store, so
I remember my family taking me to the drive-in, and
what's that like
$20?
Okay, Moneybag Higgins. I don't want to hear it. What are you diving Scrooge McDuck style into your movie tickets?
Charlie's making some interesting points. You guys should tune in sometime.
I'm trying to tune in, but Higgins keeps talking.
I remember going to the drive-in with my family where we wouldn't, they would actually have whatever movie we were supposed to be watching on this screen, and the screen next door would be the Batman movie, and I would just pay attention to Batman again.
Are you counting those in your 4?
No.
I'll allow
because
it.
I couldn't really hear it, but I knew the movie well enough. I kind of didn't need to hear it at that point.
Okay.
Charlie, do you still enjoy it today?
Yeah. But it's just, there was something about that movie at the time that just completely and totally sucked me back into my love of superheroes and everything. So
that summer was insane. That was summer '89.
Yeah.
That's when I was working at the comic store where Charlie used to shop.
Yeah.
And people would come in. We would stock Batman T-shirts, and people would come in and buy like 5 or 10 shirts at a time. Wow. The bins were wiped out of Batman back issues. I mean, it was anything Batman. Anything.
Yeah, I bought the trading cards and stuff they put out that used to come with the gum and all that.
Yeah, I bought those. Oh, that gum was
it hurts special. Sometimes when you chewed it.
Yeah, but that bringing the idea of Batman to life in the way that it did with sort of the grapple gun and the armor and everything, it made it seem real in a way that I don't feel like any of the other movies had quite ever seemed real to me, because even the idea of Christopher Reeve Superman, and don't get me wrong, I loved the Superman movie. I didn't sit there feeling like that was my world in a way, because it's still sort of grounded in this whole idea of exploding planets and that kind of stuff. And this Batman with the idea of the armor, the car, all that being real. And this was before CGI effects and all that. So it felt like everything existed. And that
I'll allow it.
I loved it.
For my number one, maybe if you asked me a year ago, it probably would have been different. And I think we're going to sense a bit of a theme here. But it's actually the '89 Batman as well. Kevin looks a little surprised there.
I thought I could put money on what it was going to be, but yeah.
Lantern?
No.
Justice League? What did you think it was going to be?
Dark Knight.
Yeah, Dark Knight and Winter Soldier are my favorite of the Marvel and DC movies. But those earlier movies, they do something a little different than the modern ones. There's been so many now, and I look back at that original movie, and like you said, it's a bit nostalgia. It's a bit of what it influenced going forward. And again, I think if you had asked me a year ago, I don't know if I would have said this, but I've rewatched it a couple times recently. And that movie holds up, I think, incredibly well. Like you with Superman, it's not perfect. There's a couple, Joker killing Bruce's parents is not a thing that I would do, and it wouldn't be done today. But that was it makes sense within the context of the time in the movie when they did it. But that performance, man, Jack, oh man, he steals that movie.
He still quotes "You're number one." God.
He
fucking still quotes that.
He
whenever he can.
He steals.
He does it.
That's a tough role. I love Dark Knight. I love Heath Ledger, but that's an incredible
So it's a
Joker.
tough role, and yet I feel like
they almost always nail
the
it.
People that have done it have done it really well.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah,
As long as you get somebody who's almost crazy.
Romero,
Yep.
and then Jack,
and
then Heath, all different,
yep.
but all very
Leaving
good.
Jared Leto out of this conversation.
Yes, I'm leaving Jared Leto out of the conversation.
Joaquin Phoenix, TBD.
Looks
No.
promising.
No, it does not.
Oh,
Mark Hamill. Let's not leave him
Mark
out.
Hamill. I'll put Mark Hamill in it, but I will not put Jared Leto or Joaquin. That's going to be a big pile of crap.
but that first Batman movie, and I'm sure I famously said this in the podcast before. I don't know if Bryce remembers it, but my reaction when that movie came out, my parents were like, "Do you want to go see the Batman movie?" My initial reaction was, "No way! That's a DC thing. I hate DC comics. I only like Marvel comics."
I do
right?
remember you saying that.
So, this is before I was like really even reading comics.
You're like the
regularly.
Benjamin Button intellectually.
Yeah. This is like because comics to me were the trading cards and the cartoons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like the Hanna-Barbera FF cartoon. This was like pre-X-Men. This was pre me even reading comic books, but I still knew Marvel and DC were a thing, right? And I still knew that I liked Marvel, right? So much of those early years before I actually read the actual comic books. But when I did see it briefly, I did see it shortly after. I mean, it must have been the summer it came out, but just not the day it came out.
I mean, it
Probably
stayed in
few months
theaters a
later.
long time.
That movie stuck with me, and again, watching it recently, I'm really surprised how it's a funny movie too. It's a really funny movie. Not like an intentional funny comedy, and not like you're laughing at it, but there are some clever lines in that movie.
I think one of the biggest things that movie did was it took that dark feeling that we got from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns and the old kind of campy, like it took everything that Batman's mythos had gone through from the early days to the campy, cheesy like stuff to the 66 stuff to like the darker stuff. It took all those and just put them together in a really well done movie that was virtually a comic book brought to life. I think that's what it really did.
Ryan, a hot, raging comic store argument at that time about that movie. And I'm talking about, and like it was like working in a bar where people would just come in and plant themselves and just have these debates over and over and over. How could he cast Michael Keaton?
Times hasn't changed.
Michael Keaton's a terrible idea for Batman.
He's Mr. Mom. How could they make
there was Mr. Mom,
Batman?
Gung Ho.
Oh, Gung Ho was so good.
Again, anyone can be Batman because you put that mask on, you put that cape on, you can kind of Hollywood
being able
it.
to turn your neck.
Bruce Wayne, tough role.
All you got to do is get into a deeper voice.
Keaton,
Look at Bat Dad.
Well,
awesome. I think he did a great job. It's a different Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
But it is undeniably Bruce Wayne. He played a great version of Bruce Wayne. That is not the traditional comic book Bruce Wayne. However, the similarities between him and the comic version, I could see this line. He is not you're not going to be like, oh, he looks like he came. So many of the Marvel Cinematic things, you're like, holy shit, Chris Evans looked like he came out of the comic book, right? That's not Michael Keaton. But his performance pulls it off. And the whole scene where he's like, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts!" Right? I mean, there's a couple of those scenes where there's way more going on that you see the line blurring between because so much of that movie, he's probably Bruce Wayne more in that movie than he's Batman.
Yeah.
In most Batman movies, that is not the case.
Well, and it's funny is seeing, like, now with what's coming out with Batman and stuff, I'm like, ooh, what if they cast Michael Keaton as the Batman who laughs? Like,
Mike Keaton's good, so
like,
I love the movie. And I just looked this up. I didn't realize this. Production budget in that movie, $35 million.
Yeah.
Made like over $400 million. I mean, that's like a $5 billion movie today, right? That's just
it's still making money.
Insane. Well, I mean, they obviously make money on
And Mondo's about to put out the soundtrack.
Yeah.
For the what is it? The 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
That thing came out 30 years ago.
Yep, getting old.
Whoa.
Bat Dance going to be on there.
Brock.
well,
Love myself some Bat Dance, a Little Prince action.
Yeah.
It's like a couple. It's like a couple other people's. It's the Dark Knight is on my top list with the barge scene.
Oh God,
Good, you got your cue.
the barge. The barge scene is the only blemish on Nolan's perfect record. That barge scene was so contrived. Oh no!
What?
Everybody.
Why?
Everybody's happy. Because for the most part,
one's
Nolan
happy.
does a great job of taking this ridiculous concept of Batman existing in the real world and making it realistic. And then he puts a bunch of serial killers on a bar. Were the serial killers or just inmates? I don't remember.
Prison inmates were on one barge.
Yeah.
Civilians were on the other barge.
That's right. And then the moral of the story is that the prison inmates, what impetus? No impetus. They just decide to let all of the innocent people survive. And it's like, no, in reality, there would be some crazy ass dude that would be like, no, they're actually going to die. We're not going to die.
There was. And the big guy was like,
Yeah.
And the one guy stood up and he's like, nope.
The guy from next Friday and the Friday before that and the Friday after that. And he was around every Friday. But
Ice Cube?
No.
no.
Friday?
Yeah, he was. I mean, you're right that Ice Cube was in Next Friday and Friday,
Okay.
but no, the antagonists of those movies.
Oh, no.
No, yes, I wish it was Chris Tucker. What happened to him other than gaining a lot of weight?
I don't know.
Happens to the best of us. So except for me. So I will say that there's no way that somebody doesn't fucking overpower Debo and is like, no, we're actually going to kill all these civilians. Like a barge full of convicted felons. Like there's going to be somebody. I mean, like I'm surprised.
They do, don't they? I mean, am I misremembering the scene? Don't people?
No, it's like a fucking kumbaya moment where they're like,
the guards.
no.
Don't the guards have it?
Debo said that.
So
we
the guards have it. The guards can't bring. So one of the inmates comes up and says, "I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do what you should have done a long time ago," and then he just tosses it out the window,
which is
removing the
so
sword.
ridiculous, and that would never
That's what it was.
actually
That's what it
happen.
was.
Like
That's what
that
it
is
was.
just complete malarkey.
Just killed him.
I mean, both in reality, both.
There's a lot of projection here. Hey, Bryce is like, oh, I would have fucking blown that other boat up, no question asked. Just kaboom.
Sorry, not sorry, Debo. You're going to sleep
are
with
you
the
saying
fishes.
you were on the criminal boat?
Well, if you remember, they both had a detonator, and I think that how this works in Bryce's reality is that no matter what boat Bryce is on, Bryce is blowing the other boat up.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah,
Look,
Bryce just can't see. There's just no.
It's not just a Bryce thing. Like there's no way in reality. Think of the world we live in. There's no way both of those boats, much less one of those boats, doesn't pull the trigger on the other boat. It just doesn't happen. And for the whole movie,
Lack of compassion is a problem among certain segments of the population in certain states. Correct? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, like I know that you're being
Way to drop our podcast numbers by half.
So, Brock, what do you like about The Dark Knight?
No, I'm just saying that it is a ridiculous contrivance to think that, like, oh, let's make this ridiculous concept totally realistic and then throw this total curveball of utter malarkey into the middle of it, starring Debo.
Hashtag love the Debo.
There's a lot about Dark Knight where it may feel closer to the real world,
Yeah.
but there's a lot about it that is not the real world.
Like what? Some people just like to watch the world burn. Charlie. Good talk. Are you done?
Okay.
Okay.
So what I was talking about with the 89 Batman movie. The 89 Batman movie, everything felt like it could just walk out of that movie and be on the street to me. Like,
Yeah.
even to the point of like early in the scenes where it's like, how much do you weigh and such.
A giant airplane that has a humongous pair of scissors on the front. Absolutely. I'm
perfectly fine
Do
with
you
that.
hate the opening scene of Dark Knight Rises too, with them capturing the guy on the plane and Batman? Like, do you hate that too?
No, that is fucking amazing.
Okay.
Why would I hate that?
I don't know.
What the fuck?
Seems like you think it was weird.
Okay, good talk.
I guess what I'm
that whole
saying
movie
is-
was amazing. And by the way, there was no silly contrivances that I can think of in these current 2 seconds. I'm sorry, Charlie. I interrupted you for like the 11th time. Please go.
You got
ahead.
to follow
but-
the breadcrumb trail here.
Exactly.
Higgins asked me a question. I'm compelled to answer.
In the Burton one where he picks up all the balloons and flies off with the balloons, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what
great.
he's talking about.
And then he uses the giant scissors.
I'm Mary Poppins.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah.
Is he cool? No, I'm talking about the giant pair of scissors on the front of it. Like,
yeah.
no, I not sarcastically love the first Batman movie. That was that's on my top 5 if we were allowed to expand, which I know we're not. So don't tempt me. Okay, I will.
Top 10.
So all I'm basically saying is there's a lot of aspects to Gotham City as a whole that makes it feel like, yes, it's closer to the real world than we're used to. But in Dark Knight, I don't sit there going like, oh, yeah, that's such and such. You don't get that sense of the way the world works in everyday life. At least I don't.
Okay, well, nobody's perfect.
So where are we?
What happened?
Brock,
What are we
Brock
doing?
was saying what he liked about Dark Knight.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brock.
Fucking barge scene.
You do realize I just set you up for that, right?
Did that just take like 10 minutes right there? Just okay. Brock, go ahead and tell us what you like about the Dark Knight.
Much like back to the Star Wars thing where it gets deeper and stuff like that. I enjoy the Dark Knight because of just everything that movie gives us and just how well it executes it. It's not like Star Wars where I prefer Batman Begins over it. But I do feel like that was the movie that just, I mean, I saw the theater like 3 or 4 times. I've watched it numerous
Okay,
times.
Mr. Moneybags.
You stole his line, man.
No, only 3 times. I'll allow it.
Or 4.
No, because he's out 4.
That's like $80 now. Jeez.
When he was a kid, it was kid prices and way cheaper.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, kids probably.
Judge Scott has entered the conversation. I'll allow it.
I'm sorry, isn't your name Josh? First of all.
And I think that
know this? You haven't been here.
I
Just because I don't post, I'm still reading the fucking Facebook.
I think Heath Ledger just really made that movie in his performance. And
Do you prefer the Heath Ledger Joker or the Nicholson Joker?
Or the Jared I couldn't even finish. Okay,
again?
never mind.
That's always the problem, right? They're 2 distinct different styles of movies, and so
Okay, yes, obviously, apples and oranges, but gun to your head, go.
Heath Ledger.
I'll allow it. Oh, wait, but what does Josh think?
Judge Scott is entering the conversation. I will allow it.
I think it's the slow clap in the.
Is that about what you expected, Kevin? Or
Oh, that was beyond what I could have ever expected.
is it everything you hoped and dreamed?
So don't ever make us do it again.
We just gave more to this ridiculous conversation than we did to Stanley's memory.
Kevin, what is your least favorite movie on that list?
I'd have to look back through the 8 pages.
How about what is your least favorite movie that we listed? That's what I want to know.
3 times the 6 of us. It actually wasn't 18 movies. It was like 6.
Yeah, it was a lot
Except
of overlap.
Bryce added like 9 to.
It was like
just-
6 movies plus Scott's random garbage 3. Like,
I think my
Yeah.
least favorite that
Yeah.
was mentioned. So I haven't seen What did I not see on your list?
Red.
Okay, I haven't seen Red.
Red is really good.
Dark Knight Rises is probably my least favorite of everything that was mentioned.
Who mentioned Dark Knight Rises?
Nobody mentioned it on their favorites.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
in
I
their
just
favorites.
said that came up.
Oh, no, I meant on our lists.
There aren't any that I don't like.
Okay.
Scott Pilgrim.
I like Scott Pilgrim.
It's fun.
Yeah. That was just some
It was,
solid...
it was hard filtering through the non kind of superhero movies to find.
Scott, what was a movie on the master list that you would not have picked?
There was a few of them on the master list that were just straight trash. What were we talking about?
Well, comic movies before the year 2000 are very
suspect.
Yeah, there's good, obviously.
Yeah.
Couple Superman, couple Batman, and then oh boy,
like the Phantom.
But I saw the Phantom, the Shadow, Tank Girl. Yeah. I saw every single one of these in the theater. God,
you
what
watched
else?
Batman and Robin twice on the same
Thank
day,
you.
back to back.
Is that a true story?
That is true.
He probably only paid for one ticket, though.
No, he paid for
Did you do
tickets.
a Toby and sleep through the first screening? And
No, I bought 2 tickets, and
okay.
You know, because I figured it'd be amazing, and it, you know,
Well, it was.
It was something
I was
special.
amazed.
It was an amazing pilot.
So for
something
those of
special.
you listening, Kevin's setup and homework for us is like 4 pages of movies. Just
Rounded up, it is a dozen. A
least
dozen
at least
pages
he
of single
put 'em in
space movies.
alphabetical groups.
That was very nice.
The bees were the longest list.
That was very nice. I wouldn't have known where to find Witchblade otherwise.
There's a lot of TV comic movies in that list that are real
I think
trash,
that if you
too.
take out all the animated movies, also that list is half as long.
You didn't even have the Fantastic Four, the old one on that list.
The Roger Corman one? Because I was guessing nobody had actually seen it.
I was tempted to
I saw
pull
it,
in
like,
Mask of the Phantasm
15 years ago.
to my list because that was a hard one to not have. But
I just think, yeah. I mean, that's fair. Master of the Phantasm was incredible. My thought process was just that it's so much harder to make a live action movie good, and so
I need to talk about something really quick that just dawned on me. Talk about Master of the Phantasm. Who has picked up the Batman animated series Blu-ray?
I did
You watched any of the special feature
surprising
stuff yet?
Fucking nobody.
not in.
shocker.
There's a 15th disc or whatever on the collection. That's all the special features, right? And includes like 2 new hour plus documentaries about the making of it. It's mostly interviews with Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and Andrea Romano and other people. But whoever made this, don't ever make any of these again. Every time they show artwork on this special feature, it's got some weird candlelight effect on it. So it's like here's the character turnaround, and it's like this glowing light on the front of it, and there's this hyped Stranger Things sounding music through the entire documentary. And it's just I'm just Paul Dini talking, and there's this behind the whole conversation. I'm
with the
fucking
Casio keyboard.
Turn that music down.
Right there. I bet that he's back there going.
That's what I mean. It's just this. We've all seen Stranger Things. We know what the soundtrack's like. I mean, it's fine. It's fine at the club, but turn it off. This fucking weird ass. This very normal documentary. Turn your weird. I love this music, but turn it off. And it's really loud too. The music is almost as loud as the people talking. So when they're trying to talk, I'm like, what did he just say? The music's as loud as the fucking people talking. What a weird,
Did you turn the captions on?
documentary. No, I should have though. What a weird.
Because it would have been really great if it was demonic Satanism.
It's super strange. If you get to watch it, Charlie, tell me if it's really annoying when you try to.
I'm going to go over a couple. I'm going to go over a couple of the
rewatching a lot of the episodes.
Ryan, here's a couple of the crapball movies that were on this list.
The Spirit.
That's I'm not even on there. I'm on the bees.
Oh, you're on page 1.
Barbed
12.
Barbed wire.
Oh yeah, Pamela Anderson. Yep, I did not see
trash.
that one. Did not see that. One.
Casper, Catwoman,
Catwoman is
Cowboys and Aliens.
Okay, fuck that movie Into the Sun. Okay, that's not based on the comic book either. By the way, you know what the deal with Cowboys and Aliens is,
Yes.
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
but
I will say for a young kid, I forgot about this one. This one slipped through. Flash Gordon.
Flash.
So good.
There you go.
I'm surprised.
I'm not into Flash Gordon.
Most of the Ghost Rider movies.
2. Two's amazing.
Two's got a special place.
God.
Jonah Hex.
Jonah Hex
is real bad.
Straight trash.
What'd you guys think of the Keanu Reeves Constantine?
God.
I've never seen it.
That was not awful.
It was not awful. No, it just shouldn't be called that, and it shouldn't be that.
What's his name played the best devil I've seen?
Yeah,
exactly.
Peter Stormare.
None of us mentioned Kingsman, which were both good.
No.
The first one, I haven't seen the second one. The first one was good.
Wanted.
No.
The first Kick-Ass was.
No.
The first Kick-Ass was solid.
No.
The first one.
We're just trolling. We're trolling
awful.
Higgins now.
No, he just wants to get all Mark Miller movies off this list.
Yes. There's like 90 more coming. So nobody saw that.
I did. Richie Rich. Straight trash.
I mean, that's like the middle of like that's like stuff like Casper and Richie Rich. That's way more in line with like the Flintstones live action movie than like comic book movies.
Well, they were bringing back a lot of those old. Comic
Here's the biggest piece of trash on the list so far, and I'm on the S's.
Okay,
we brought this one up earlier. Steel's
real
Shaq.
Bad. Steel's real tough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like a super crappy low budget movie. It's not even like that was ever going for some big budget.
That third Blade movie?
I bet it's profitable, though, Steel.
The third Blade movie was
I
awesome,
doubt that.
I'm telling you.
Really?
Deadpool, Jessica Biel, there's not a better combo than
Blade
that.
2's terrible.
That was...
Blade 3 is terrible. Blade 2 is fantastic.
I don't even know if Steel ever made it into the theaters.
No, at all.
Okay. Now,
I don't think it was. I think it was directed DVD.
There's one on this list that is now my favorite movie.
Are you
Big Hero 7?
No. Weird Science.
That's not a comic book.
That is not.
It's based on, according to our comic historian Kevin, it is based on and adapted from an EC Comics story.
Yes.
The Oversight Committee has just ruled Kevin ineligible.
That is like the.
that gets in on a technicality.
Kelly LeBrock.
Judge Scott entering the conversation. Judge Scott sides with Kevin Sharp.
Kelly LeBrock, though. Hoo-wee.
Oingo Boingo.
Oh, so good.
So, Bryce, where are you shopping now for your comics?
Yes, we're going to move off this movie list, but before we go, I would like to talk Bryce. What's happening? How are you?
I'm doing good. I just got here. It's been a whirlwind. I woke up at 3:30 a.m. this morning, so
nice.
that's been
It's a long drive.
That's been fun. I did not drive, but I have a feeling you were joking. But it's hard to tell with your awful sense of humor. No, it was good. Got up at 3:30. That plus a couple beers makes what even time is it? No, things are going very well. I've actually been incredibly negligent in my comic book shopping in local stores because, as loath as I may be to say this, Brock does an amazing job at packing comic books and packaging them and shipping them out. I get these like humongous stack once a month of mint condition comic books in like 17 layers of protection, just like I like to use. And they are, I mean, it's great. So I haven't been to more than one shop, and the one was because I was trying to distract my son or something, and it was a crappy little shop. I forget the name of it. But, there's a lot of great options, I'm sure, in the greater Portland area. I haven't been to, more than one of them, but I don't need to because I get them delivered to my door.
Cosmic Monkey.
I'm going to eventually go to all of them.
Cloud9.
I'm going to find something that I love more than Higgins' shop.
What?
Now, if I'm being real though, that would be quite impossible.
You're starting to love the hub, aren't you?
I'm starting to learn how to use the hub. That's a little milestone that I've been doing. But yeah, so transitioning from a 40-minute commute to waking up and putting on my sweatpants and going downstairs has been a nice commute change for working from home.
It's great. I can harass you on Twitter all the time, and you never know.
Somehow, my Twitter game has become even worse.
You'll have a couple key tweets to check next time you check. So.
Oh dear God. So let's see here. Yeah. So Twitter's been tough. But yeah, I mean, we got more bang for our buck, if you will, up in Oregon. So that's been great. But yeah, no, things are
grinding out that rep. Doing okay. 120.
Yeah. I've sort of like you. Actually, you haven't been on in days. But I hit I hit 120 and I got revered with everybody and then just sort of stopped playing. This is World of Warcraft. It's another video game separate from Marvel Puzzle Quest. I got kicked out of my guild in Marvel Puzzle Quest. Or Alliance, not guild, sorry. Because I wasn't contributing to PvP, which is my own fault. Let's see here. Why? Yeah, that was why.
They'll send you a little message?
Yeah, it's the longer story that the audience doesn't care about, but I'll tell you later.
Rocket, if you're listening, man.
He's not listening.
Is there a limit to how many people can be in it?
20.
Oh, okay. So they actually need active participants.
We have 3. We have 60 in our little group.
Yeah, so...
We have 3 different
groups of 20. And I just wasn't pulling my weight in PvP and didn't realize that was fucking everybody else up.
I can't believe you got the boot.
Yeah, I woke up one day and wasn't in a guild, and so I opened line, and it was like... Hey bud, can we talk or something from a week earlier? And I was like, "Ooh, this is probably what it was about."
I couldn't get you back in.
No, it's okay. I did it to myself, so it's fine. So I'm in a PvE only alliance now, and it's actually just fine. So, anyway, yeah.
Is it one of ours?
It's affiliated, but it's not.
Extremis?
No, it's not an Extremis one. Can we talk about this later?
People want to know.
Nobody wants to know. About Marvel. For those who are dying to know, because I'm dying to share, both my kids are now potty trained, which is awesome. They're both wiping their own ass, which is a nice step.
How's that door locking going? Yeah.
You went there. No, I literally did not go there. What are you
brought up your
about?
Kids? That brings it there.
Not sure it does, but okay. So my son just randomly, not randomly, over the past month, has become a legitimate reader, where he's actually able to read children's books, which has been actually really awesome. I'm the coach of his soccer team. And
hell yeah.
Yeah, and he's actually...
You gotta be way better than those other dads.
Oh, dude.
I thought you were going to say way better than those kids.
Well, it's true that I'm better than all of those elements that you just brought up. But yeah, I'm way better than any of the dads, because the other dads just want to spend quality time with their son. They don't know how to actually play soccer. And then let's see here. Oh, so the soccer season just finished. He's now playing basketball, but basketball can go fuck itself. So I'm not coaching that, but I'm gonna go and watch his games. But I got roped into refereeing his last game, so that was fun. Let's see here. My daughter just started preschool. She started coming home and saying elements of the Lord's Prayer, which is very weird. So we're not a religious family. Oh, is that my food?
Bryce just ordered his dinner.
So a guy just knocked on the store door with 2 bags in his hand.
I guess Bryce is, we're getting live delivering food. That you? Yeah. All right. Can you lock that door, please?
Does Chipotle deliver?
No, that's Nom Burger.
Oh.
The Uber Eats selections are
fancy.
Not very good.
Wow, money bags.
Okay, let me wrap it up. I believe this says Kevin Sharp on it. There, this bag of food. Don't eat it; it's mine. Let's see here. Okay, what else?
What, your kid's religious? What are you talking about?
So the best preschools are run out of churches up there, and even though we're not religious,
Kelly suckered you, man.
Well, she's not religious either. How did she sucker me?
So you could do a normal school. What are you doing?
Normal preschools. I mean, in terms of quality and the ones that are around us, go fuck yourself. You don't know what you're talking about.
He has no idea. He has no kids.
Doesn't matter.
He's never dealt with.
Send him to a real school, not a baby school.
Okay. Anyway, my son, who's in kindergarten, is at a normal school that is not a religious school, and he's doing just fine. And that's where my daughter will go when she goes to kindergarten. So, what was I just saying? Oh, go fuck yourself. That's right. Okay. Let's see here. Other than that, let's see here.
How's the house?
I can't even talk about the house. It's very nice. It's much nicer than we had in Santa Clara.
It's not a money pit, is it?
No, it is. I don't know what the opposite of that is, but it is a very good house. We had to hire well, I'm not going to talk about that either. there's a lot of elements to owning a bigger house that I didn't really consider when purchasing a bigger house, but it's been
Got a lawnmower
good.
now?
No, we hired people. We have a
Money bags.
we have a gardening crew that comes once a
God,
week.
what do you go to see movies in the theater more than once? Also,
I haven't seen a movie in the theater. I mean,
Oh, once
Jesus.
his daughter's in kindergarten, man,
Since
he's going to
Infinity
take a
War?
long lunch break.
Possibly. The transition to working from home was quite a big learning curve, but I seem to have figured that out. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's...
How's the getting a mic and headphones going for you?
I
How many
will...
weeks behind you feel like you're in that task?
How long have I been gone?
Just 1 week behind?
No, I'm super negligent on that, and I meant to get here earlier and do it briefly. I will do it. I have so much to talk about. I literally have notes on my computer for briefly fodder, but I don't know. He posted the link to the microphone.
It's tough, man.
He
Real life.
posted the link to the microphone one time, and I can't find it now. And he said he'd repost it, and he never did. So I really feel like it's his fault.
I think I sent it to you like 4 times.
You sent it to me like one time maximum.
I'll send it to you again.
maximum could be 0.
Just
Could be
put
minus
it on a
1.
cart and send him
It's
the link
most
to the
likely
cart
minus
or a
1.
wish list.
Anyway, is it good? Yes. Do I miss it here? Fuck yeah. Do I, regret any of it? No. It's been really great. So
Do you look at your house and mortgage payments and don't miss it that much?
exactly.
Yeah. It's like when I moved to San Jose. I was like, yeah, I miss Sunnyvale, but yeah, I don't really miss it that much. It's not that far away, but it's like still, it's
Oh, it's a big difference. Yeah.
yeah, big difference.
So yeah, you felt that too. So yeah. So it's been a thing. It's been a time.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back.
I really missed
when
it.
are you going back
I
to
really
Oregon?
did miss it here. Friday.
Oh, okay.
My wife is solo with the kids for the 4 days, and I get to drink beers and talk comic shit, and it's awesome.
Well, we'll be talking comic shit for 2 hours. I think we're going to wrap this episode up. I saved you all from having to do sales charts. We'll do that next week. I know it's Bryce's favorite, so we'll let him go.
We've gone over this so many times. I actually like sales charts. I hate it when you...
I know. I'm joking.
Can we do random picks?
Yeah. What have you been reading, Bryce?
Hey, you know what? I was going to say this further briefly, but since I was late for my own briefly, and
You weren't even here
therefore
for
didn't get to do it, I would like to give a special shout out to the Domino series. I don't know if it's a mini series or what, but Gail Simone has been kicking ass with Domino. I've only read the first 7+ annual, which I believe is all that's out, except that there's one out tomorrow.
Don't sleep on this issue from this week, man. Already going hot.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Sexy cover.
That could be,
Vampire rape threat.
yeah, I saw the cover. It looks pretty.
Yeah, eBay is going crazy for this issue.
No, I just saw it on the shelf. Wait, are you serious?
Oh, yeah,
It's
of
in your
course.
box.
It does look like oh, of course you went with that picture for this cover. It is.
I looked at the cover and I was like, yeah, this is really bad. I'm going to bump my order by like 30% because we'll sell more copies because of this.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole vampire thing. But anyway,
Reminiscent of that Joker Batgirl.
I mean, it's
cover.
Mobius. Or Morbius. Sorry. Mobius. It's not Mobius. Morbius. The
dude.
living vampire, not the French artist.
I'm super excited about Mr. Miracle ending up. I obviously haven't read it because that's also coming out tomorrow. But
Yeah. Big Uncanny.
Uncanny number 1.
Yeah, this is
tomorrow.
like your week this week. Uncanny number 1s this week.
that's why I flew down. I mean, Stan Lee is why I flew down. But so. Yeah, Domino, as a random pick, Domino has been really incredible. Gail Simone has been doing an amazing job. I don't even remember the artist dude's name, but he's some Italian or Spanish dude. But regardless, he has done a great job. The story's been really good. It's sort of this under-the-radar, very solid book to read. So, Domino. Domino, motherfucker.
There you go. All right.
Wait, nobody else
That was
is
a
going
good
to do random picks?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Good talk, guys.
Yeah. Well, we had here at least some X-Men talk from you.
My random pick is not Domino, but it is the it was picked last Saturday or no Sunday.
Those are days.
It's a day that ends in Y. Just talk.
I don't know what day it is. It was picked by my nephew Finn, and that would be the
in your hair.
first volume of Jeff Johns' Flash Run.
Yeah.
Go out and get it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Read it again. And if you haven't read it the first time, shame on you.
Oh, I just remembered Bryce ordered food. We're going to be here for another 3 hours. We better just keep recording. No. We're going to wrap up. Thank you guys for listening. Bryce, thanks for
Nobody else?
being on while you're.
We still have to do an outro.
Oh my God! I forgot. I do have a half an hour left in the podcast.
Am I doing the outro?
If you would like to.
Woo! Saddle up, baby.
Okay, you're gonna have to give me a minute
Don't you want
here.
to take that food with you? It's going to be cold by the
Do
time
the
this
regular
is finished.
outro and let him do the Patreon stuff.
That's how I eat my food.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let me do my regular outro here while I'm getting the Patreon stuff set up because we do need to do that. Let me grab the. I mean, you guys, you got to keep listening because, as you know, this is the best part of the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
When Bryce rambles incoherently for 30 minutes.
No. Fake news.
Our good friend Julian Titus, who did send over that wonderful tribute.
Thank you, Julian.
That's Nerds Without Pants podcast at pixelbit.com.
Toby.
Please go.
Come on, Sharp. You're Toby today. Say it. Fucking say it.
No pants.
There you go. Please go visit Julian Titus over at the Nerds Without Pants podcast at pixelbit.com. Ryan Hess has blowhards over at blowhards.libsyn.com. Jody Lawson has the Triad Comics Anthology at triadcomicstudios.com. Sam Che, Craig Anderson, Joe Duff, Andrew Nelson Mendez at the Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast, Dar Fox 8 at Manga Machinations, Larry Davis at the Stand to Deliver podcast, which is about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's a manga. And Page Turners, a comic book podcast at pageturnerspodcast.libsyn.com. Those are our high-tier backers. We always appreciate it when people go and what is happening?
Bryce is eating a burger with a fried egg on it.
No, it's sunny side up.
It just explodes everywhere? What?
Yeah.
It's dripping.
Come on, Bryce, say something, man.
Do you need some napkins or?
It's fine.
Okay, he's
I'm
fine.
gonna wash
He's
my
fine.
hands before I touch any of you.
Okay, well, you
Can
got-
turn the mic away from me, please.
You got a minute and a half. Of course, I can always pause it while you finish that, and we can just immediately go back into it. The magic of audio recording. ComicConspiracyPodcast.com, Geekbox.net, and iTunes. Please rate and review us. It helps people find us on iTunes. That's what people say. I don't know if it actually does anything. Yeah, because I won't remember otherwise.
What? Turn it around.
YouTube.com/comicsconspiracy is where you can go listen to this podcast on YouTube.
How do these outros go off the rails so easily?
Okay, so I unplug the store phone when we record the podcast in case anyone calls.
Because he hasn't figured out how to shut the volume off.
One time out of maybe 25, I forget to turn the phone back on. So about 3 o'clock on Wednesday, Leanne will call me on my cell phone and be like, why are you not picking up the store phone? And I'll be like, oh shit, I've had the phone off all day.
I did it once.
So now I leave myself a nice little note on the phone to turn it back on.
Do you want me to go get a label and...
No, I just leave myself a nice little note. When I turn the phone back on, I throw away the note. Patreon.com/comic-conspiracy is where you can kick us $1 or $3 or $5 or more, and Bryce will read your name in a couple minutes. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz is where you can find all your digital comic books. You can read it on your iPad, your phone, your computer, whatever those things are called. Comicsconspiracy.biz, of course, is our website. You heard the wonderful packing job Brock does here from our one and only Bryce Larsen, and I can confirm if you want some comics shipped, and more than likely Brock will pack them up and ship them out. I do it sometimes, but usually it's Brock. Go to comicsconspiracy.biz and pick up some comics from us. Conspiratobrock.com, that's Brock's blog and video pull list.
Wanderers, I've been getting videos up of statue unboxing.
Yeah, you've done a lot of unboxing videos recently. Yep, you buy a lot of statues. Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension, that's Charlie's Doctor Who podcast, and Etsy.com/shop/Leanne Hill Art. That is Leanne's Etsy store. My wife, she did a couple Sailor Moon pieces recently. You can go check those out. Ryan Higgins, Ryan, that is me. I am on Twitter. Brock is Brock Sager. Larson Bryce, that's Bryce Larsen. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. Kevin Sharp is That Kevin Sharp. Scott is CS Shea. And the store is Comics Con Store. Don't forget to go listen to Manga Machination, Infinite Binge on YouTube, Comedy Button, of course, the Geek Box. We were off this week.
So
Ryan Scott's been out on work, but we will be back next week. I'm sure a lot more to say about Stan Lee and some video game stuff. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Bryce Larsen here, and he's got some outro for Patreon backers, so stick around.
Here I come, baby. Hello. Oh, welcome to the end of the show. I'd like to thank you all for listening, all of those of you that got through the incessant prattering of that fool Bryce Larsen and his merry band of fellow comic book readers. Thank you very much for your time. I'd like to take this opportunity to especially thank the, if I could hear myself over the other prattling of these guys in the background here. So I just want to give a special shout out to our $5 a month and higher backers. You guys are, guys and girls are quite handsome and well bred and have excellent taste in comic books as long as you prefer Marvel Comics. So first of all, I'll just get going. I'd like to first of all thank Dennis Janssen. Dennis, how are your boys doing? I've not been following the any Dutch football, but I'm assuming that it's going very well. So good luck to your boys. Okay, I gotta get through this faster. Okay, Alex McHale, thank you very much. Matthew Schnapp, thank you very much. Adam. Oh, you probably don't want me to read your last name, Adam, so I will not say Adam's last name, but thank you very much, Adam. David Baroldi, thank you, David. Don Kilson, okay, all right. Don Kilson, thank you very much. Mark Long, thank you very much. Michael Zakovic, Michael Zakovic, thank you very much. Ivan, how have we not run into each other in the comic book shop in Oregon? Probably because I haven't been going to any. That is one possible reason. Okay, thank you, Ivan. Brian Murawski. Thank you, Brian. Miles Gakula. Thank you very much, Miles. Bryce Larsen quotes. Oh, still such a handsome donator. Obviously has excellent taste in comic books. Thank you very much, Bryce Larsen quotes. And by the way, excellent name. I think that you have quite a handsome name. Paula Schultz, thank you very much, Paula. Mark Smith, thank you very much, Mark. Joseph Rodriguez, thank you, Joseph. Comics Eccentric, a.k.a. Jack Ildefonso. Jack Ildefonso, that's not so complicated. Thank you very much, Jack. Christopher Noyes. Oh, Christopher, how'd those earthquakes do, my man? David Safar, thank you very much, David. Identity Stunt, the comic. Is that your real name? Okay, well, Identity Stunt, thank you very much. That is a crazy name. PJ Ryder, PJ, I love the abbreviated first name that you have. I gave my son an abbreviated first name as well. Josh Elliott, thank you very much. Tyler Willits, Tyler, are you still running? I hope you're still running, Tyler. Let's see here. Rob Ben Dixon, thank you very much, Rob. Travis Fleischman, Travis, thank you very much. Amy Foster, thank you very much. Mason Barber, thank you, Mason. Robert Lane, thank you, Bobby. Christopher Stone, thank you, Christopher. Oh, this one gave me trouble last time. Thad Gutschall, could be Tad, probably Thad. Thad Gutschall, thank you very much. Timothy Ronaker, definitely Ronaker. Couldn't possibly be getting that one wrong. Thank you very much, Timothy. Chris Lockhart. Thank you very much. I'm sure you haven't heard any jokes about Gilderoy Lockhart, so I'll just leave that nerdy joke by itself. But thank you very much, Christopher. Aaron Wright, thank you very much. Father Dante, thank you very much. And thank you to Mother Dante for allowing you to donate this much per month. Nick Harrison, thank you very much. Alex Young, Chris Polanki, and Kevin Ellis. Oh, it's like a trifecta of thank yous right there. Thank you guys all very much. Chris Olivas, excuse me. Thank you very much, Christopher. Wally Ansari, thank you very much, Wally. Wally, I have a hard time believing that is your actual first name, but oh no, what is it? Wallian. Wallian. Huh. I never heard of that name. Wally, thank you very much for donating and for teaching me a new name. Nick Zappas. Nick Zappas, thank you very much. Mario Miranda. I know that name. Thank you very much, Mario. Dominic Arisman. Thank you very much. Chris Bunch. Chris Bunch, you should team up and make a superhero duo with Chris Noyes. You could either be the Chris's or you could be Bunches of Noise. Gordon McKenzie, thank you very much. Greg Lindsay, thank you very much. Chris Nguyen, another Chris on the list. Thank you very much, Chris Nguyen. Edgar Moreno, I also recognize that name. Oh, and your boy, Drew, Andrew Kishieri. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much, everybody. Whether you are donating a penny per episode or $1 million per episode, we don't have a lot of those guys, shockingly. But regardless, I just want to reiterate how much we appreciate each and every one of you for anything that you can help donate and make our dreams come true. We all have different dreams. Lane just wants to go to Comic-Con every year and be a famous artist. Scott Shea just wants to buy infinite gold coins in Marvel Puzzle Quest. Charlie just wants to buy my Cable original art for me because I'm the #1 fan. Let's see. Brock just wants something to do with Harley Quinn. Let's see. Toby, God knows what Toby wants. Higgins wants Higgins. If Higgins had infinite money, Higgins would no doubt make the DC movies better. And Lord knows it would take infinite money and still not happen. Let's see. Mr. Sharp, if he had infinite money, what would he do? Mr. Sharp, if he had infinite money, he would probably, he'd do something altruistic and nice, just like Charlie would. Those guys are too good. Me, if I had infinite money, what would I do? I would probably just get as much X-Men paraphernalia as I possibly could. Boring, but true. Anyway, so yeah, thank you, everybody, again, so much for your contributions, both emotionally, socially, financially, and physically, although that hasn't happened yet. But hey, you never rule out tomorrow. Thanks very much, everybody. Much love, and Excelsior.